Rayford.
Here.
Shaner. Here. Scott.
Here.
Berenstein.
Here.
Bertrand.
Stand for a moment of silent prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Amen. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is Sam out there? Yeah. Sam Wagner and Kelly, you got something to do here today, please come forward.
Coming a regular, Sam.
Hey, I told you I'll be back. So here we go. This time as a duly designated representative of Mid-American Energy, here to present a check in the amount of $5,000 as a grant through our Trees Please program. So I'm going to make my remarks brief. And that's pretty much it. So thank you again. Thanks to Kelly and the Parks Department for putting in the application and giving me a reason to come before the City Council without being in trouble. So thank you.
We always like it when you come with checks, Sam. All right.
Thanks, Sam.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I have a proclamation that just says Public Works, perhaps, so I don't know who's representing this. You want to- all of them. Okay, we have everybody. Whereas the Public Works professionals provide essential services to protect the health, safety, and quality of life, allowing for sustainable and resilient communities as well-being and the well-being of the people of the city of Sioux City. Whereas these services could not be provided without dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are employees at all levels across our 6 divisions who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our infrastructure and transportation network, wastewater treatment, stormwater treatment, solid waste operations, fleet management, and renewable energy essential for our citizens. And whereas it is the public's interest for the citizens in Sioux City to gain knowledge of and to maintain a progressive interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. Whereas the year 2026 marks the 66th annual National Public Works Week sponsored by the American Public Works Association. Now therefore, I, Robert E. Scott, Mayor of the City of Sioux City, Iowa, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim May 17th to the 23rd as National Public Works Week. I urge all citizens to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association and government agencies in activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protecting our national health, safety, and quality of life. I'll let you guys present this to you and tell us all those activities that we need to take part in.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, Council, and members of this community, thank you for recognizing the National Public Works Week and your continued support for the Public Works team. Public Works impacts the daily lives of our residents in many ways, from maintaining infrastructure and protecting public health to responding to emergencies and supporting community growth. I especially want to thank our dedicated employees for their hard work, professionalism, and commitment to serving Sioux City each and every single day. We're proud to serve this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go to the consent agenda, items 2 through 13B. You can consider these items passed unanimously unless a separate roll call vote is called for by a council member. Anybody wanting to speak on an agenda item may come up to the podium at the time the item is being discussed. Anybody wishing to speak on an item not on the agenda may do so at the end of the regular meeting during citizen concerns. Fill out a citizen concern card found. Well, you don't have to do that. Not this late. All speakers must state their name. I'll move the consent agenda.
Second.
2 is a reading of the city council minutes of May 11th, 2026.
One item, Heidi, can you, on the council concerns of those minutes, I had asked the question about how each city department is going to manage its fuel costs in light of the increased fuel cost increases. And the minutes simply show that I was asking about the airport, but I was asking about all city departments.
You want us to amend, or are you just making
Please.
clarifying?
Please,
We need a vote.
I'll
To
move
amend.
that amendment.
Second.
Shaner?
Aye.
Scott? Berenstein?
Aye.
Bertrand? Rayford?
3 is a resolution approving the annual action plan for the Sioux City Consortium in the conjunction with the Community Development Block Grant Program and the Home Investment Partnership Program. 4 is a resolution accepting the work of Knife River Midwest for the Hamilton Boulevard resurfacing project.
I just have a question on this. On the funding of this project, it notes that there's sales in transfer, in transit. Why is a sales tax supporting a public works project?
60% of it has to go to public works project, or 40%. It's in the bond, it's in the resolution that was passed back in the 90s when I was here, that so much has to go for infrastructure improvements.
Is that what the sales tax generated would
Our
have to go?
local option sales tax does.
Yes. So much for
Teresa Fitch,
economic
Assistant City
development.
Manager.
Yep.
Yeah, so a portion of it was passed when we increased the sales tax for that 1% that we actually get back. So a portion of it has to go to infrastructure. So it's not necessarily always this project, but we put it towards an infrastructure project in the CIP.
Okay, thank you.
5 is a resolution amending resolution number 2026-0440 by extending Food Truck Fridays events dates through August 28, 2026.
Question. On the food trucks, what are we paying now for a food truck fee per year? When was the last time it was raised?
Rick, are you talking about Food Truck Friday specifically, or the food truck?
Just
as
in
a
general,
city?
isn't it the same permit, isn't it? Or is it a different permit?
No, they have to have a city permit. I'm not sure if Angel could address that. The Food Truck Fridays is $300 a truck for the season.
For the season?
Yep, sorry, Reagan Cody.
That's a Siouxland Health permit, not the Sioux City permit for those guys,
Fire does inspect.
Fire inspects now, yes.
do they?
Yes.
Angel Wallace, Parks and Recreation Supervisor, so we do have a permit that food trucks can go on our riverfront, and that's for free. So Food Truck Fridays is separate from what Parks and Recreation oversees for food trucks.
They pay $300 to park for the
They
year?
pay $300 for the season for Food Truck Friday specifically.
But just that group, you mean?
just that group,
right,
correct.
To be a member.
Right, and then they go through the Siouxland District Health Department and the fire
Fire
department.
department.
So that lets them park like in the Morningside Library parking lot and all that too, or is that a
That
separate
would
permit?
be-
Separate.
That would be a question for Joe. Joe Rodriguez with the fire department is usually the
Right.
one who goes out to inspect those.
I'm just curious, is that, like I said before, is, Julie, you owned a restaurant too, and, those guys don't pay a lot of property taxes and a lot of cash business and stuff. I'm just kind of curious on what are they kicking into the kitty if we're giving up. I like Food Truck Friday like everybody else, but you know what?
But
I
they need to
mean,
be
it'd
there.
be, it's kind of hard when you're trying to do lunch 5 days a week and one day gets taken away from you. I know it's the old scenario. I'm not trying to be the Debbie Downer, but can you get back to me on what the
At the library.
the dollars are on
Morningside,
the permits?
There's
They'll
no
rate.
fee at the library Morningside because that's public property.
Nope.
Okay.
That doesn't mean they can park there for free necessarily.
There-
That's what I'm asking. I thought there was always like a $2,500 or something like that for the year. The other communities do that where they come in and that includes the inspection and everything.
We'll follow up.
Can we follow up?
Yep, we'll get you details.
Not trying to poke the bear, but I wouldn't mind seeing a little revenue out of that, and thanks.
6
That's
is
not
a
out of park.
resolution authorizing the Neighborhood Services Division to submit a grant application to the Federal Home Loan Bank for Affordable Housing Program funds for the Midtown Terrace project. 7, resolution inviting proposals for the sale of land in the Teton Urban Renewal Area, announcing the intent to accept the proposal of Outer Banks Apartments and scheduling a hearing property at 4203 Denise Court.
Quick question on this. Who's here on this item? I think this is a great project. I know that there's a waiver of 50% of the property taxes as it relates to city funding. do they seek a similar county or school district waiver as well?
Clayton Bankford, Economic Development Specialist. I'm not sure that they do right now. We can look into that.
I'm just curious about the total receipt of taxes. I know that we're waiving a portion. It's a great project. I'm just curious about the total finances.
So this is specifically just to sell them the land.
Right.
I know the development agreement is still in works, so we can talk about that as that gets closer.
The school district is exempt from that, right?
Teresa Fitch, Assistant City Manager. So when you're talking about tax, when they do tax rebates, we as the city manage 100% of the TIF.
So you collect it for all three?
Correct.
Okay.
And then we would rebate it back. If this agreement would go to council before January 1st, we would have the ability to do 100%. But as Julie said, with new legislation, that school levy, foundation levy, is removed. So we'll need to relook at what we can do. That'll put us at between 75, 80%. We need to look at what that looks like compared to what our taxing amount is there.
So we'll move forward to notice the sale.
Correct.
It'll come back whether we receive other bids or not. We'll approve the sale, but we'll revisit the components of the development agreement based upon the tax impacts.
So there will be another
with the
development
legislation.
agreement.
Okay, very good.
The development agreement, as it's currently being noticed, will come back in the 30 days at the same time as the land
Great.
sale,
Okay.
if I'm remembering correctly
Yep.
on this one.
Thank you.
Yes.
8 are actions relating to capital loan notes. A is a resolution directing the sale of general obligation capital loan notes of Series 2026A. B is a resolution directing the sale of taxable general obligation capital loan notes, Series 2026B.
I need to show us abstaining on the taxable loan, general taxable obligation bonds, please.
9 are actions relating to agreements and contracts. A is a resolution approving a post-construction stormwater management plan maintenance agreement and easement with J.D. Tire Services for the detention basin and accepting a permanent easement property at 4059 Southgate Drive.
Can I just back up? Councilman Bernstein, are you abstaining due to a conflict?
I
of
don't,
interest?
yes, I'm abstaining due to a conflict related to Security National Bank.
Okay. Just for purposes of the record, if a conflict isn't noted, conflict of interest, it counts as a no vote. So we just need to clarify that it's a neutral abstention.
It's a new, yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Is that the bonds we sold today?
Yes.
What's that have to do with Security Bank?
Security Bank is a participant with UMB on the taxable portion of the general obligation bonds, so I need to abstain.
So if you own stock in Security Bank, you
That's why I'm abstaining.
I better abstain myself if that's the case.
Due to a conflict of interest.
Yeah, well, I guess so. If I'm a shareholder, I suppose I do. I didn't see that part. I saw the UMB, but okay. B is a resolution approving an agreement with Eagle View for aerial photography services.
Can I ask you, I'm sorry, Nicole, did you have a chance to look at this agreement? Or did somebody in your department have a chance to look at the agreement?
Refresh my memory.
This is on the aerial, and in particular, I'm concerned about the
On
intellectual.
the Eagle View pictometry,
Yes.
I've looked at it many times with many revisions back and forth.
Okay,
and
you're
this is-
comfortable with the agreement?
Well, this is where we ended up, and we had no more room to move on some
Okay.
of the conditions. so.
I have concerns about the warranty language and the
Yes.
limitation of liability
Yep.
language, but you've
And
done everything you can?
Yes, Gordon's out there. We've been back and forth many
Okay.
times
Okay.
related to this. Unfortunately, this is where we ended up.
All right, thank you.
C is a resolution awarding and approving a contract to Barclay Asphalt for the Lorraine Avenue resurfacing project. D is a resolution awarding and approving a contract to Mark Albanesius for the Larson Park Road flood repair project. E is a resolution approving a non-ERISA advisory services agreement with Creative Planning. F is a resolution approving an attorney fee contract. 10 are actions authorizing payments. A is a resolution amending Resolution 2026-0323, which authorized payment to Ferguson Water Works for the annual fee associated with the Neptune 360 water meeting reading software. B is a resolution approving change order number 1 and authorizing payment to Mark Albanesius for the Lorraine Avenue Emergency Sanitary Sewer Repair Project.
So is the reason there was such a significant change order on this is because it was an emergency repair and they can't fully understand the scope of the project?
Gordon Fair, city engineer. Yes, there was a lot more bypass pumping on this one to make that repair than we had planned on.
And that, so as part of they wouldn't have evaluated that as part of the project because you needed to get them in sooner?
Yes.
Without bidding the project?
That's correct.
Thanks.
C is a resolution authorizing payment to Mark Albanesius for the removal of the temporary access roads off of South Lynn Street. D is a resolution authorizing payment to Mark Albanesius for the Floyd Golf Course Storm Sewer Repair Project. 11 is purchasing. A is a resolution awarding a purchase order to Crouch Recreation for the purchase of the Cone Park outdoor furniture. B is a resolution awarding a purchase order to Siouxland Bobcat for a T4 Bobcat skid steer loader. C is a resolution awarding approving a purchase order agreement and purchase order with Connor Sports Flooring for the Tyson Event Center basketball flooring. What are we doing with the old basketball floor? Did we get that sold?
Jessica Johnson, City Manager's Office. I'm not, we haven't put it up for sale yet by any means, but we can look into doing that through CMG. I'm not sure what we'll get out of it.
Somebody was interested in it, I know that.
We can certainly look into it.
Okay. Well, sometimes those things disappear around here, and I want to make sure they don't just disappear, so. Okay, thank you very much. 12 are applications for cigarette, tobacco, nicotine vapor product permits. 13 are applications for alcohol license. Anyone to be heard on any of those items?
Heidi, can you go back and show me abstaining on 12A2 on the liquor, on the tobacco license for the Sioux City Country Club, please?
Yes. That's also due to a conflict of interest.
I had a Crown and Diet up there the other day. They didn't have any liquor in it, so I wouldn't renew their license.
Passes 5-0. 14 is a hearing and ordinance vacating a portion of the
Like that one?
north-south alley abutting lots
I
10
wouldn't renew
and
that one.
23 in the block bounded by Fifth Avenue, Glen Avenue, South Henry Street, and South Clinton Street. The petitioner's Clarence Gordon. The P and Z recommends denial. I'll move that.
Second.
Public hearing is now open.
Hi, Clarence Gordon, 2310 South Clinton. You guys said last time I was here that you would decide on the vacation of that then?
So I think that's why it's in front of us again. We did get an email today from someone that said they were unable to be here today but had some concerns.
Okay. So this will be continued then? Or?
I don't know. I'm just raising, the gentleman said that he worked until 5, wasn't able to be here. I can pull it up.
It was someone who utilizes the alley that's considering building a garage, and she felt like it would block her access.
To me, it seemed like she wanted to get paid. That's what it seemed like to me.
There's nobody beyond where I'm wanting to vacate the alley.
Yeah, it seemed like she just wanted to get paid.
Gabriel Ford, City Planning. During the first hearing at the PNZ, he submitted like a concern. He was in opposition to the vacation, and it got denied, got to council, got denied, and also sent an email this morning that he's still in opposition to it.
Oh,
yeah.
So this will be continued then, right? Or?
No, we can.
No.
Not necessarily.
And if I'm not, if I'm correct, the beyond Mr. Gordon's area, it dead ends.
It is.
It's,
It's dead
it's
end,
because of the
inaccessible.
topography.
Right.
Yeah, but it's also because of the retaining wall that you built, because we look at the area view, and in 2010, 2014, there wasn't any retaining wall.
Oh, but the retaining wall
So
out.
he put it in, yep.
No, that retaining wall has been there since that property was there. I rebuilt it when my neighbor knocked it down, redoing their retaining wall about 10 years ago. So it's not something new that I just put up. It was already there. And the retaining wall that's in the alleyway is that tall.
Right, but you can't drive over it.
If you knock that down, you still cannot drive
You
up
still
that
can't,
alley.
right.
It's impossible. I mean, without going out and looking at it, I gave you guys pictures last time.
Nobody's been in that alley for years.
For years, right.
So what's the
Not
vote?
debating that.
What's the vote?
To vacate,
To vacate?
to overrule,
Yes.
P and Z recommended
Yeah.
denial. We're being asked, so the vote is to either support the denial, which is a yes vote,
No.
or
No.
A no vote is
That's why I
supporting
asked.
denial because it's as applied for. So he's
So you-
applying for vacation. A yes is a
so to
favor.
support his request, we can vote yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
So yes, it vacates.
Yes.
Yes.
right.
So is there any reason based upon the communication we received today, either with regard to broadened development that that person wants to do, or Rick's point, to be compensated for impacting the value of their property that affects our vote today?
It depends on the council, but because like in the initial request that went to P&Z, engineering recommended denial of that because it's going to create a dead alley.
They
dead
denied it
end
every
alley.
time they've had it.
The alley is already dead.
Yes.
Yeah,
dead
but
end
if you look
alley.
at the area photo views that we are looking at in 2010, 2014, 2017, it looks accessible. But because of retailing water was built, if you look at it when it rains, it blocks the sun, and that's why it has caused that here a little bit. But it also serves as they use that one to like take out trees when they fall down, and also for like add.
Well, I took out the trees today that fell down back there. I've done all the maintenance in that since I've lived there for almost 27 years. You guys don't maintain it.
I know
And
that,
that's part
yeah.
of the fact, that's fine.
Is there a motion?
I'm not,
Right.
I don't think I'm asking
Is
for
there?
anything unreasonable. I don't know.
Risky run.
Huh?
Right.
Yeah, and if we vacate, the neighbor still has a chance to buy half of that alley.
Everybody who
My
lives
neighbor
along.
that has the other half of where I'm at, she's sick today, so she couldn't come with me. She has no problem with it whatsoever.
Just saying it.
And none of my other
That's-
neighbors
That's
do
the only
either.
person that suffers a loss. Patrick, you're never gonna open this alley. You'd never open it. You don't even go down it. But yet we want to stop a guy from,
Can't go down it.
it makes no, I know, you couldn't get down there if you had a fire
If you
truck
wanted
would get
to.
down there.
Let's vote it. Let's get it out of here.
We can vote it, but the consequence of voting it and vacating it is the neighbors have the opportunity to buy half of the alley.
The neighbor across the alley.
Sure,
does-
that's
yeah.
fine.
Right, just so we
Who's
know
already
that.
advised you,
That's fine.
no
Yeah.
And
issue?
that's what,
Yeah,
She would have been here with me today,
right,
but
but
she has the flu, so
right,
she
even
couldn't
though
make
she's
it.
not here, she's still
Thank
going to
her
have
for
that
not being here.
opportunity.
Yeah, this is like your
They'll
third
have to
time
go to
here.
that.
Let's get him out of here.
Yep.
Yep,
Okay.
okay, I just want you to know that.
Anyone else? Hearing is closed. An aye vote goes vacate, a no vote affirms the action of the planning and zoning. Passes 5-0. We'll hold on the statutory so the other person, if they want to come, can.
Boom.
Hearing and resolution number 15, approving plans and specs for the Nebraska Street Water Main Replacement Project. I'll move that.
Second.
Hearing's now open. Anyone to be heard? Seeing none, the hearing is closed. Passes 5-0. 16 is a hearing and resolution adopting a regional hazardous mitigation plan. I'll move that.
Second.
Public hearing's now open. Anyone to be heard? Seeing none, the hearing is closed.
Is this plan, I know it's for a 5-county region. Other communities, have they reviewed and approved the plan as proposed?
Waiteville City Planning, they are in the process. Simcoe sent it back to us here probably about 3 weeks ago, and so I think everybody's in the process of approving it, so it's in the works.
Just keep us posted if there's any concerns raised by
Okay.
any of the communities.
Yep.
Thanks.
Did that come up and I missed it? No, just right now. Okay. 5-0. 17 is a hearing and resolution approving a proposal to sell that vacated part of 8th Street adjacent to 702 St. Mary Street and the vacated north-south alleys in Block 3 and 6 adjacent to 702 St. Mary Street. The petitioners Amy and Damien Pierce. I'll move that.
Second.
Public hearing's now open. Anyone to be heard? Seeing none, the hearing is closed. Passes 5-0. 18 is an ordinance repealing ordinance number 2026-0464 and amending chapter 12.30 stormwater program to modify the stormwater collection fees. First consideration was approved on May 11th, 2026. I'll move second reading.
Second.
Anyone to be heard? Passes 5-0. Anybody opposed to waiving the statutory rule?
Oh, I'll move third reading.
You got to move.
Waive the rules.
I'll second that.
Scott? Berenstein?
Aye.
Bertrand?
Aye.
Rayford?
Aye.
Shaner?
I'll move third.
Berenstein?
Aye.
Bertrand?
Aye.
Rayford?
Aye.
Shaner? Scott?
19 is a resolution inviting proposals for the sale of land in the combined Central Sioux City CBD urban renewal area, announcing the intent to accept the proposal of Bishop Heelan Catholic Schools and scheduling a hearing the property at 1100 Douglas Street. I'll move that.
I'll second.
Good afternoon. I'm John Flannery, president of the Bishop Heelan Catholic Schools. I'm here on behalf of our Cathedral of the Epiphany, the Cathedral Dual Language Academy, Bishop Heelan Catholic Schools, students, administration, staff, our school board, all of which are represented here throughout the audience today. Bishop Heelan has maintained this land for nearly 70 years under an agreement with the city of Sioux City. This falls into our strategic planning of maintaining a continuous campus that includes not only Bishop Heelan, but the Cathedral of the Epiphany. Our strategic plan includes campus expansion. We're landlocked to the west due to Perry Creek. South and north have additional challenges, and east is our most efficient with the least amount of barriers. We're in the process of purchasing Marion Hall at 1122 Grandview for new teacher apartment living. We're leasing it this year from the diocese and have an offer to purchase it this summer. The land currently acts as a pass-through alleyway and has parking for our CYO building along with a large grass area. The main points of our needs stem from a safety and security standpoint. Acquiring this parcel of land from the city will provide a significant benefit to our schools by enhancing the overall safety, security, and long-term protection of our campus. Ownership of the adjacent property would allow the school to create a physical barrier between the campus and surrounding traffic or public access areas, helping to better control entry points and improve student security during the school day and school-related events. Investing in this property is an investment in our long-term stability, safety, and well-being of our entire school community. If this were to become a public paved street, our campus would be severed. If this area were developed into a public street, it would effectively divide our campus and create a direct passageway through the heart of school property, severely compromising the integrity and security of our campus. Such a roadway would render our CYO facility functionally unusable for its intended purpose, as it would no longer provide a safe environment for students, staff, families, and visitors. The increased traffic flow, unrestricted public access, and separation of a key campus area would create substantial safety concerns. School zones are part of the active transportation and safe routes to school portion of the long-term comprehensive plan for Sioux City. If this block were to become a paved street, it would go against those plans and increase the risk to pedestrian safety for our school on the Cathedral campus. Additionally, the right-of-way to reconstruct a street would encroach onto the CYO parcel and the Cathedral parcel. Currently, our CYO building houses, 1, a preschool classroom for our Cathedral Dual Language Academy, which has 20 students registered for next year. 2, a kindergarten classroom for our Cathedral Dual Language program, which has 22 students registered for next year. So 44 students ages 4 to 6 years old. Our preschool and kindergarten students use the playground just to the north of this property every day, every school day, weather permitting. Their main building is about a block away at the Epiphany Center where the 1st through 8th graders reside, and those students do use the playground at the Boys and Girls Club. Unfortunately, that building, the Epiphany building, was erected in 1959, and our preschool classroom cannot move over to that building due to codes for preschool through the Iowa Preschool Initiative. Hence the current situation to leave these 2 classrooms in the CYO because we don't have another option in the Epiphany Center. Our exercise science classroom at Bishop Heelan is also in the CYO this year. We have 230 of our 515 high school students take exercise science 4 days a week, and those students walk from the main building to the CYO Center. Our wrestling room is also housed in the CYO building, so we have about 25 wrestlers that are there. Due to major renovations over the last few years, our CYO building hosts about 20 freshman and JV basketball games annually. These games not only have Bishop Heelan students and families that attend, but other MRAC teams like the Sioux City Public Schools and Council Bluffs teams and their fans. Our We Are Heelan Youth Athletics also use this facility on nights and weekends for practices and scrimmages. We've invested about $1.5 million into our CYO building in the last 8 years. The building has heavy daily usage all year long, even in the summer months, when our athletic teams lift weights. Putting a street there would not only be a huge safety concern for these 4 to 6-year-olds and the 230 high school students, but also the neighborhood in general has major safety issues. I truly appreciate the City Council is looking into ways to address our roaming populations in that area. Bishop Heelan is right in the middle of those concerns. 2 recent and obvious examples I can personally provide. Last Tuesday night at 7:30, I was walking along the Prairie Creek Trail and our campus, and I counted 9 people either on our campus or within just a few steps of it. A few were on the trail, 2 were cutting through our main campus, and 3 were sitting on the retaining wall right out in front of our CYO building. Yesterday morning, I walked from the CYO to Mass at the cathedral at 9:30 a.m., and a homeless person was sleeping right behind our old sign, which is on this 1100 Douglas Street property. His position was 7 paces to our preschool and kindergarten classroom. At 11:20 a.m., nearly 2 hours later, I returned by the same route, and the homeless man was still lying there. Additionally, a shirtless man was 20 feet behind me walking down this property, and he was on his speaker on his cell phone shouting a profanity-laced tirade in person to the person on his phone. These are real examples every day. If Bishop Heelan were to purchase this property, we could finish the fence that we've currently started at the back of the rectory of the cathedral and comes up towards our preschool and kindergarten playground. This would cut off the transient traffic we experience every day.
John, I don't want to interrupt you, but the fencing that you're talking about would be on the east side?
Yes.
Not along the west side? You wouldn't even have a gate or something to get in from
Correct.
Douglas Street? Okay.
Yes, correct. Thank you.
Jessica Felix, Bishop Heelan Catholic Schools Board of Education representative. I wanted to speak on behalf of Cathedral of the Epiphany. Right now, they're represented here today by their rector, Father David Escalano, Carla Cramper, and Dan Kriener. The cathedral is the home church of our Diocese of Sioux City, which covers 24 counties in northwest Iowa. The cathedral is currently the largest Catholic church in our diocese with over 3,000 families registered, not people, families, which would make them one of the largest churches of any denomination in our area. The cathedral has a minimum of 4 weekend masses and 2 daily masses, and to open this street next to them would be a huge concern for the parish safety. The cathedral uses the block for our religious processions, and the current configuration ensures safety of parishioners and visitors as they do not have to deal with traffic. Most of the parcels surrounding the cathedral are owned by the diocese, the Cathedral Church, and/or Bishop Heelan Catholic Schools. This acquisition will allow us to continue with our synergy of services for the community, school, and diocese. The Cathedral and Bishop Heelan Catholic Schools recently partnered on the new parking lot to the north of the church. As the abutting property owners to this parcel, it would be nice to have the ability to purchase 1100 Douglas Street and the 11th Street parcels to ensure our institutional block for the Diocese of Sioux City and Bishop Heelan Catholic Schools. This is in compliance with the City of Sioux City long-term comprehensive plan for this area and is an appropriate land use for the zoning of the area and consistent with other school campuses throughout Sioux City. The public schools in Sioux City do not have a public street through their campuses. They have a security fence, and they have a buffer for off-street parking. Bishop Heelan and the Cathedral host many events that have individuals attend from outside Sioux City. Our campus and institutional block are a great extension of this city. We want a safe, secure, beautiful campus that is not only a reflection on our mission, but on the greater community of Sioux City.
I have a question. You're a engineer for roads.
Correct, sir.
You look at an aerial map, you look at a 2012 agreement that they signed, not me. Well, I think I signed it too. But it says that we're going to put a street through there. Now there's a mystery of how this all of a sudden became a street project, when in reality, if you look, it takes you all the way to Highway 75. We have one block that's not done. We made that clear in 2012. But now all of a sudden, we're supposed to not do those plans that have been in our system for quite some time.
So to address the paving of the street to provide that east-west connection of 11th Street, there's other issues along that corridor that need to be addressed prior to this one block, including over a half-mile of residential zoning with stop signs, the Cargill operations on either side of the road with 2 railroad crossings, the 11th Street Bridge load posting and lane reduction, and the BNSF railroad crossing near Lewis Boulevard. The Hooven Valley study of the early 2000s indicated that other potential options for east-west connectivity are 6th Street and 18th Street. The 16th Street east-west connection could be achieved by eliminating the one-way traffic on 6th Street in the downtown area. Also, the state is investing in the Gordon Drive.
Why did you sign the agreement?
I did not sign it personally.
Well, why did they sign the agreement? You're speaking for them. Why did they sign it? That's what I don't get. Why is this a mystery today?
We revisit agreements all the time, Mayor.
And you also agreed at that time to do a lot of campus improvements, and a parking lot was not one of them. Look, go back to the agreement. We're going to have a little chapel. We're going to have like a gazebo. We're going to have a meeting.
We are working on our faith walk.
Unfortunately, Mayor, that agreement, there was no agreement because the land was owned by Bishop Heelan Catholic Schools and transferred to the diocese.
But now you're here as one group, and you were here as I was here.
Sure.
You were here as one group then when you told us what you were going to do, and you didn't do it. You didn't.
I don't believe that to be accurate.
Well, back up. They also invested $30 million in a blighted neighborhood, Bob. Things change in 10, 12, 13 years. And I agree. I understand that there was handshake agreements back then. And I get the burr in your saddle. I do. But the reality of it is that Heelan is in an expansion mode. They don't want it. They want the city isn't dying for this one block of connectivity that they think is going to happen. And at the end of the day, it's the expansion.
Street, for crying out loud. Why did we connect here?
What does it matter? What did it change?
You wanted that road by your campus at that time too, to get your kids to school faster.
Can you go back, Jessica or John? You talked about acquiring properties a little bit further to the north on 11th Street. What would you acquire those properties for? Blighted area, demolition, improvements?
We close at the end of this month on the Pink House that you might be familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
We're working on the greenhouse that's also there just on our campus as well. We're looking to, for safety and security reasons, we're looking to push our buffer out just a little bit further for our students. Every day we have people through our campus, through our neighborhood. And you're all aware of that because I know that's high on your list of things you're looking at.
Craig, in addition, as John had mentioned, we are looking at purchasing from the Diocese Marion Hall, which we currently rent. We're seeing that as a retention and a recruiting for our teachers in order to bring those salaries and those people into Bishop Heelan Catholic Schools. You'll also notice we're doing some work near Memorial Field. We've cleaned up the trees there. We're working on a grading project, and we broke up an homeless encampment there as well. We're trying to be a good neighbor. We recognize that Every Saturday, we host the Sioux City Youth Symphony Orchestra at our facility. We bring in solo ensemble. We host a show choir. We host lots of events regarding athletics and academics. And so we end up being that front face to Sioux City because our school is the closest proximity to downtown.
Listen, I got kids in the school. It's not that I'm anti-Heelan.
I know.
My wife's memorial fund went to you, but
I
it's
agree.
just, to me, that, we put that street in because we wanted a street that went from the east side to the west side. I just don't get why this is such a mystery all of a sudden.
Hey, John, obviously, you know, this is very impactful for everybody. You talked about the CYO. You know, what happens, I mean, you guys are growing. What happens if you grow, you outgrow that, and then what happens? Especially,
You're trying to get me on record to say what we're going to do next. We don't know what we're going to do next, but we are looking at several expansion projects. We're looking at renovations at Memorial Field. We're looking at some renovations, additions possibly to the current high school. As Rick said, you know, we're pushing $40 million investment in downtown Sioux City when you factor what we've done at the CYO and everything we've done in our area there. So we will be doing some expanding in the next few years. We're just, you know, we got to raise some money and see what that looks like. But
I think I already see Sneaky's Chicken, you know, Park or Sneaky's Chicken.
I would love
CYO
Sneaky's
facility.
Chicken closer, Craig.
There you go. I know a couple of years ago, there was some dialogue about a developer that was looking at apartment complexes in the area. Is there any more, is there an opportunity for Marty and Renee to continue to work with developers for sites in that in the vicinity?
So right now, if you look at the Sioux City long-term comp plan, the break line is technically 14th Street. And so would you, in order, like we've mentioned, we are landlocked. Ideally, we would preserve our campus all the way over to Douglas Street and all the way up through 13th Street. That allows that institutional block of our Bishop Heelan, the cathedral, and the diocese. I understand it can get kind of murky there, but we have a synergy. We are, you know, independent entities, but we have a synergy by maintaining that institutional block. I would say that it's no different than, you know, your North High School, North Middle School, or even like a hospital campus that has multiple buildings. That's what we're looking at, is to try to potentially expand to that east where the Douglas Street is the boundary, 13th Street is the boundary, and then as we push down towards the cathedral.
Well, we also had a synergy for development in that area for 80% housing. 80% of market rate.
Yeah.
And that was not looked upon favorably because someone who was speaking on Heelan's behalf, whether you asked them to or not, reached out to our developer and spoke against it. And he wanted to be a good neighbor of Sioux City. And so he stepped away because he didn't want the conflict. And that was a $45 million apartment complex.
But in
that your
fairness,
teacher-
Julie, respectfully, in fairness, that guy never stood on the property. He never understood the proximity to the high school. I talked to him. He never stood on the property. He saw multiple sites, and as soon as he understood it was within that close to a high school, he backed away. So again, I agree with you that probably the way it was presented by that individual shouldn't have happened, but I don't think it would have been a viable site just because Heelan would have then made their intentions known right away to where they were at. So
Well,
yeah.
they're housing teachers now. So I think that they needed those apartments
Yeah.
for your own employees, for perhaps a student that didn't go away to college, perhaps a student's family, perhaps somebody who cooks at your school or
Truly, we
teaches.
don't offer our rent at market rate.
It wasn't market rate. It was 80%
80%
market rate, Jessica.
3 years later, it had been a 40-year HUD project. That's what he does.
No. it's
3 years
not.
later, he would have converted it to a HUD project.
Is that what he did with the
That's what
Badgerville
that's
building
what those
downtown?
projects do. That's what
Is
those
that what he did
projects
with
are
the
designed to
Badgerville
do.
building downtown?
80% of them, 3 years later, they turn into a 40-year refi HUD.
I disagree.
That's okay.
I think that the diocese and I think that the Heelan school system need to be commended for what you've done in that area. I understand what you're saying, Jessica, as far as whether there were agreements or understandings 15 years ago. Things do change, and I think want to respect and understand where the scope of your development is. I know we can continue to work with John and others on your board and try and make progress in the area and beautify the area. I know there's growth and expansion to the east that's currently under discussion as well. So regardless of how this vote goes, I look forward to further discussions.
Yeah, and I would say that Heelan is now approaching 100 lots in the area and over 80 houses that they have demolished in that area. So to your point, you know, I wonder what the neighborhood would look like if Bishop Heelan, my predecessor, Father Patrick Walsh, if Father Walsh would have said Heelan's going to pick up and move to Whispering Creek or pick up and move to the north side or pick up and move somewhere else. I wonder what the downtown area would look like if Bishop Heelan and Father Patrick Walsh hadn't said, we're going to stay right here in downtown because we have cleaned the neighborhood up a lot and we want to continue to be good partners.
Anyone else? Passes 3-2. I would hope that the three that voted for this would demand some kind of reasonable expectation of what this property will look like that Heelan will agree to. Because we've had it in the past. You can tell me we didn't. We had it in the past. It didn't happen. I don't think it's unreasonable to ask what their campus plans should
Well, I
look.
think that's the expectation moving forward. I know with the next question is going to be the lots to the north, Mr. Scott, and I think that was a burr on your saddle there too, and you got both you guys. But I think what they're going to have to present next time is their actual physical plans for expansion. This just kind of frees the way. And to be honest with you, it's a safety thing. So, but I think it's very reasonable what you're asking there. So.
I go to that CYO many times. I never feel unsafe.
Well, my daughter 3 times, they come, they knock on the doors, they come and they beg on the doors, and what's it going to take? It's going to take some little girl to get boogered in a parking lot, and then it's going to be, why weren't we allowed to put the fence up? That's what it's going to come down to. So good vote today. That was a winner.
And Mayor, to your point, that's exactly why I made the last comment to John and Jessica and to the rest of the team that's here, is that I look forward to working with you.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's some concerns of not opening up the street, but you know, in visiting with our engineering department, and as I evaluated the positives and the negatives on both sides, I simply found that the safety concern and the impact to your campus and the growth of your campus was more important than maybe developing a full west to east connection because of other issues that I think impact that flow. So I look forward to working with you and continuing the development. And I think if there are opportunities with private developers, I hope you'll be open-minded with that in that regard as well. Thank you.
Citizen concerns. Are there any citizens that want to be heard? Please come to the microphone.
Stacy Orndorff, Breckies, for this purpose. I know you're going to talk about fog or have a fog presentation here in a minute, but I didn't know if I'd have the opportunity to speak. So just wanted to let you know about the experience that I had last week and the week before, and a little bit concerned about how it was handled, how we were approached. I think it's very disruptive. We had a surprise inspection, never had met with them before, had never been reached out to, no kind of contact through email or phone or anything. I just happened to be there, which is not usual. I don't have set hours. And so we were very caught off guard and approached about compliance and violation, and all these words were being thrown at me in the middle. You know, as a small business, we're dealing with customers and employees and those kinds of things. So having that kind of disruption out of nowhere is a little bit stressful.
Was there a particular reason for the inspections? Did something occur, or was it just a
No.
general inspection?
Everybody
No.
gets a random inspection.
And what time of day was it?
Oh gosh, I don't remember. I want to say 10, maybe in the morning. Yeah. And so I let them know where the grease trap was, the best I knew. The building that we rent from, they're actually responsible for it. You know, they put it in and all of that. We weren't even around when that all happened. When we signed the lease, we were told everything was in compliance and all of that. And so we were, our hands were slapped and we were told we were doing all these things wrong. We were given paperwork. I couldn't stick around, so I know they told our employees some things. They were not sure. They were confused about some things. And then we received a follow-up email, and we were given 2 days to pump out our grease trap, which, wow, that's a quick turnaround in a small business to have somebody come in that fast. But thankfully, we were able to make that happen. And our neighbor, Crum, also had the same situation, so we were able to pool our resources and do that at the same time. So we got that done, and then a week later, they came back. I happened to be there again, and not a great interaction at that time either. And the building owner, one of the building owners, Amy, was there at the time too, and so she was able to witness the conversation. And our kind of what we went away from the conversation is, who does she have something against? One of us is doing something that we felt a little bit attacked, or just, I don't know. It just seemed like we were being targeted. She assured us we weren't. And I did bring up to, I think it's Clayton that was with her, the initial surprise inspection. I just don't understand why that wouldn't be an appointment, why there wouldn't be some kind of notification so that we could set aside time if the purpose is education and for us to understand. And I think that's where I'm concerned. I wish it was an education-led experience and not a compliance-led experience, especially for small businesses who have never dealt with this kind of thing. Our contribution to the grease trap is very minimal. Sarah would disagree, but I think compared to apartments and franchises and hospitals and schools, our small little coffee shop is probably not the biggest concern. And so I guess my proposal to Sarah and Clayton was to make an initial appointment for the first inspection. They said that they tried that in the beginning, and they had owners not show up, people not there. They get there, and employees wouldn't know anything about it. To me, it's the owner's prerogative if they want to show up to the meeting, but at least they have the option. I would like to have the option to know ahead of time. And then they also said that, well, if we do that also, then the owners all of a sudden pump their grease traps out, and so it's done. Which my response is, isn't that a good thing? Isn't that what you want? Is compliance that you want the grease trap cleaned out? So why is that a bad thing? If you call and let them know, then, so to me, that said, this is more of a wanting to catch people doing something wrong versus educate what the system should be. Thank you.
Thanks, Stacy.
Anyone else under citizen concerns?
Hello, Lehigh Tonga.
Hey, Lehigh.
Kyle Stewart. I know that some of you guys wanted to have some questions for Kyle, so he took some time to travel from Montana today with his wife, and want to just give an update on where we're at with the project.
So first of all, I'd like to express appreciation for the quick turnaround, getting the redlined drawings back to us so we can get started on that. That was nice to get those quickly, and we went ahead and got the engineering updates made, and Lehigh recently emailed those in, and the architectural portion of the updates will be completed this week, our engineer has committed to, and we will be providing those. And as we look forward to hopefully being able to proceed with this project, we also want to point out that we're aware of the need to keep the building secure and to make sure that there's no issues in the meantime. And we've implemented daily security checks, physically checking every board, physically checking the locks with on-site maintenance, and we are taking every measure to ensure there's no problems in the meantime, and we are open to any concerns or any recommendations on what you'd like us to be doing in the meantime to ensure that that the situation does not bring up any concerns as we work this out.
So Lehigh, I can't see behind you, but is Daryl behind you? Daryl? Oh, there it is. Daryl, would appreciate your comments as well while the gentlemen are speaking. Just having some clarity on what you're getting, what you're reviewing, what their expectations are, And as I told Lehigh, and thank you for being here tonight, we appreciate, but as I've shared with Lehigh throughout the process, as long as the property's safe and he's working with you and you're comfortable with the progress that's being made, then to me, that's the status updates that we need.
Did we accept the plans?
No. We still haven't. Sunday evening, there was another set sent in, very vague still. There was no specific details on things. Several issues were brought to light. Items like mechanical will be brought to code. How? Condensing units set in an area that wouldn't have enough airflow. If an engineer designed it, I'd really like to know what the calculations they used, because they were in right of way. There was no breathing room, so to speak, between them. Second bedrooms don't even meet the requirements for width. I mean, the list goes on. How much time do we spend staff-wise reviewing incomplete sets? They came in without engineer stamp, so if the engineer is designing them, why didn't he stamp what he approved?
I thought that was an issue 2 weeks ago, and I thought it was represented that the engineer's stamps would be provided immediately. That wasn't provided?
No,
It was provided.
not on a complete set.
I think we're having a little bit of miscommunication here. The first set of drawings was provided, and it was just accidentally, we provided a version without the stamps. That was pointed out, we provided that with the stamps, and then there were some changes requested, and we were provided a red line document identifying the changes needed. And we are working on providing that, and the timeline that we presented when that was initially given to us was to provide the completed stamped revision this week. We provided a working version yesterday to show progress being made. That was not intended as a complete version. I apologize if it was seen that way. It was intended to show progress on the engineering side. But the architectural side should be completed this week, and then we will be submitting stamped drawings. And I'm not an engineer, so I can't speak to specific details, but my understanding was that the red line issues were addressed. If there's any deficiencies there, we are happy to address those and get any corrections that are still needed on the engineering side. Can I ask a question?
Sure.
The drawings that were provided yesterday were the ones that had the deficiencies in
Correct.
the engineering? Okay. So I'm not aware of what deficiencies these might be, but we...
Can I ask you who your design professional is?
Yeah, he's an architect who works, an engineer who works freelance. His name is Nimad Saeed.
Is this the gentleman that's going to be stamping these drawings?
Yeah, he's...
So I guess I'm asking is, doing this for as many years as I've done this, I've never seen an engineer design something and not stamp his drawings.
My understanding was that he did not stamp the drawings that we provided yesterday because he was just showing us his work in progress, and he didn't want to stamp them until the architectural...
Those corrections are not even close. They're not accurate. You don't even have a mechanical room. You've got water lines going into a bedroom, designed to go into a bedroom. I don't know what more I can say. I mean, these are the kind of situations that are on there, and there's nothing specific. It doesn't say how you're going to do your ventilation system. It says we're just going to comply. How do we know what you're going to comply with? We don't have any specifics. The type of devices that are being used, none of that is included. There's no detail whatsoever. I don't know how you prove it.
I'm sorry, did you say something?
I'm just wondering how it's getting past the two of you with these details, water lines going into bedrooms and condensers not having enough space. I mean...
Well, in reference to the condensers not having enough space, we're not HVAC professionals. So we do, of course, hope that the people that we're using are doing those things properly. It's not our number one expertise, right?
Right,
So
nor is
we
it
don't
mine,
understand
but I'm going to hire somebody who I don't hope gets it right. I'm going to hire someone who does get it right.
And that would be correct.
Right,
except
and our
you don't
staff
know
is
that until it's
spending
done.
hours and hours and hours reviewing plans that your professional is submitting, and our professionals are saying, this is not correct.
It's almost like it's an AI design.
It's going back and forth and back and forth.
That is
So have you
typical.
lost confidence?
So
It's not typical.
That-
Have you lost confidence in your architect yet? I mean, how many times is it going to go back? How many times
This
is
was
it
the
going to be a
first
working
revision.
project?
Julie, it's the first revision.
No,
It
it's
isn't.
not.
Is this not the first revision? We've received one red line. That was the one last week.
We
And
received,
then-
you did receive one red line. That is an accurate
Red
statement.
line, but there have been
There was another one
submissions
before that,
before
which
this.
which first came up, and then a
Right.
more detailed one came in that we actually
Right.
redlined.
I'm just concerned about it. I'm just really concerned about this work and these designs not being close.
I would love to get with you, Daryl. I mean, I'm more than happy to sit with you guys tomorrow.
So Kyle, you flew in,
And go through it.
you right?
Yeah.
So first, thanks for looking at Sioux City to spend a bunch of money.
Right.
Love you to come back and spend more and more and keep spending it here, and I don't want to discourage you one iota, but there's a lot of concerns around this property, okay? You know, I think you see the sensitivity, I'm sure you've been watching it online. A lot of sensitivity around it, the area. There's just, the problem here is a little bit of the validity issue, is it where you run into. And this, the councils before us that wouldn't take action, or starting to take action. This council wants to take action. It's a blighted area. So my question to you is, as you're spending money on these engineering plans and everything, the budget that was shared with us was about $900,000, which ends up being about $52 a square foot. You know, and I'm trying to figure out, I'm being positive here, but my fear is that we've got an out-of-state developer out-of-state developers have really kind of roughed this city up in the past. And we've got a local guy who is completely bought in and has given us guts, is we get a year into this thing and we realize this is probably a $3 million project. Or can you provide us, like, I mean, do you have any of the projects that you have experience with that those type? I mean, I'm not challenging your validity. I'm asking is that can you put this council at ease on letters of credit, your banking institution? Everything seems to have a little bit of a fog on it when it's presented to us. So give us some clarity, give us some confidence.
Well, like you say, this is a difficult project. There are a lot of uphill challenges. And so it is financed through a private lender rather than a conventional loan at a bank. And so I think any concern with the letter is just that a private lender just generally is not going to write a letter that looks exactly the same as a conventional mortgage letter would look like from a bank. But we're happy to provide any updated documentation, any specific documentation desired for the lending. I mean, the lending is fully secured and
Can you go
approved.
back to the letter of credit, though? Because I respect what you're saying in terms of this may not be a conventional bank borrowing transaction.
Sure.
But any lender can indicate a letter of credit. A letter of credit is not an indication of borrowed funds. A letter of credit is to indicate that you've got the funds to support funds that will be borrowed, correct?
Correct. And
So, and the letter that Daryl showed me, this has got to be 2 months ago, was a letter. It was not a letter of credit. There was no authority. There was no resolution. There was no indication that the funds were available to support either a transaction or a commitment to the city of Sioux City. So I'm still struggling a little bit with understanding where your financial support is.
It's with this lender. This lender has agreed to fund the project completely based on the equity in the rest of the buildings. And that letter that they provided, I agree that looking at it in isolation, it can look a little bit vague without being in the context of the greater loan agreement. And I can request for them to provide a more clearly stated letter to show that those funds are specifically for this property. They actually did already provide a revision that we have tonight that specifies the funds are for this building. The original letter was worded in a way that you could read it and think, oh, this might be
Looked
for
like it was
something
for
else.
maybe potential, a number of transactions, or a number of properties.
Right, and that
developed.
was just unintentional language in the letter, and they did provide a version of the letter that corrected that language. But they would provide, I can ask for a more formal letter if one is desired, to completely specify that the funds have already been approved and decided to be.
So how
left
did
on
you
the
come up
project.
with the $900,000 budget? And again, I'm not trying to if somebody tried to get in my business, I'd be telling me to pound sand right now. But the problem is this is the area of this project, and it's been there for so long, and it's, that we have to ask these questions, you know what I mean?
Of course.
So how did you come up with the $900,000 budget? I kind of asked for kind of a pro forma a little bit. What, are you, I'm concerned that just isn't going to get it done.
So I calculated the budget. We go through an extensive estimating platform. So my line of work, we work in the restoration business. When dealing with insurance carriers, we get down to every single line item specifically. So when we write our estimates, even in this case, we treat it the same way. So we did provide the city with an estimate. It outlines all of the line items necessary for the project. When it comes to all of the MEP items, we went directly to the contractor and had them provide theirs and then included that into the estimate as well. And then we removed all of the costs that would be associated with a contractor to do the work directly, right? So it would be, basically, this is the cost that it would take to actually get the project done without paying someone an oversight fee as a general contractor.
I would like to also add, there is the $100,000 bond that we could replace with the $10,000 fee. We could have a private company fund that when the project is further along. And so that's an additional $100,000 in funding that is available, or $90,000 in funding that's available for this project.
Kyle and Lehigh, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for coming out. You know, I have supported you guys in this project, and I think the big issue in question, you know, and Rick maybe kind of alluded to it. You know, if you get the plans, you know, I mean, you know, what can we do to make sure that we get the plans submitted so that they're submitted, and then you can get to work? I mean, and we're looking, you know, I don't know, how long do you think the project would take? You know, let's say plans are, you know, approved Friday. You know, what timeline are we looking at?
6 to 9 months to have the entire thing completed. I've already reached out to the subcontractors that would be able to start on the project right away and let them know kind of where we're at with in regard to the city. And I just said, hey, we have the financing ready and available. So a little bit with that is that we've already started with the financing, so they've already provided us with funds. That's what we use for the demo in the beginning of the project and what we use for the plan. So they've already started funding it.
Oh, you meaning the draw that they're talking about in
Yes.
the letter? You've already drawn off of the 900K?
Correct, correct.
So is there a loan agreement in place?
Yes.
And you've mortgaged the property to Barker Financial?
Yes. Yes, they hold a first position lien on the property, and that's the lien supporting the financing.
And I don't know if you guys are super familiar, and maybe you are, so I apologize if I'm just saying this, but that property is actually one parcel. So that
Including the 4
901
properties to the behind and to the west?
Correct. So that apartment in the front, it's technically, all of those are one parcel. So
technically, they all got to be up to code before any, it's all or nothing. You can't limp in.
The 14-plex is the uninhabited red tag building, and then the other 4 buildings have rental permits now.
Right, right.
And are operated right now as rental properties.
So just going back to the plans, you know, what's the plan to get those?
I'd be more than happy to go. I can come in tomorrow if I mean, I know you guys are busy, so I get that. I'll come whenever you guys have time. Be more than happy to sit down, go through all of those things.
We can't design it for you.
Totally understand that.
So a licensed engineer should be able to, this is a lot of times they'll have a design professional like an architect that does all the grunt work, all the detail work. So you know, the cost, here's this, I'm not looking to say that this person is not giving you the product you're paying for. I'm just saying that how does your contractors even give you a solid estimate when they don't even know the equipment that's going in it? There's no equipment that's been submitted for approval, any types or anything. This might be they might be thinking they're going to put an $8,000 unit in and it's $16,000. I mean, I don't know these numbers. We don't know these numbers at this point. There's been zero plan to show you where your mechanical room's going to be. Your mechanical room's got to be somewhere. It's not on the plans. So you're going to lose at least part of an apartment, if not a complete apartment, just for your mechanicals. So this helps. I don't want you up over your head and backwards in this thing before you get done. No details, I can't give you a permit. Somebody needs to design this that knows what they're doing. They can't just put down, we're going to design it to code, or you're going to put it into code. Somebody in New York City designing something for Iowa, I'm sorry, he does have a license in the state of Iowa, but does he know how to design it? Does he know what the codes actually state? I don't know that. But the evidence that I've gotten so far and the plans that we've gotten shows that there's a lot of inconsistencies, and I'm not sure you're getting the product you're paying for.
Do we know if we have original plans for that?
I'm sorry, what now?
Do we have original plans for that property?
From what, 1920-ish?
Nothing that's today's code.
So that's probably part of the problem, right? We don't have anything original, so now we're creating from practically new, right?
Well,
I want some understanding.
not yes and no. I mean, the only thing that the original set of plans is going to do is give you the shell portion of it, and we're not talking about the shell itself here. We're Lee has expressed, there's a roof situation that's got to get fixed. We're not talking about that, not in this design right now. We're designing the interior of it for people to dwell in, okay?
Gotcha.
So there's things, and I don't know, and I haven't gone out and thrown a tape measure on it, but just things like your path of egress out the front is got to be, path of egress got to be 36 inches. It's just the way it is. It's been that way for a long, long time. And I think it's like at 33 shown on the plans. Now, they've been there forever, those stairs. I don't know. Did anybody really measure that? Do we even know the accuracy of it? Because, man, I don't want to put on their plans, you got to tear your front stairs out and start over again, when that may not be true. It's all those little details that we lack to be able to give a good presentation. I mean, if it was as simple as just saying, yep, I'm going to do it to code no matter what, you get in there and the guys get going and say, whoa, stop, wait a minute, tear it all out, they're going to start over again. Because it's not right.
And so the issue that we have, and I sympathize with what Darrell is saying, the issue is that obviously 10 years ago, we didn't get those things. And 10 years.
I'm sorry, 10 years ago.
10 years, when this first hit, right?
No, we did nothing. We had nothing on this until last August, I believe it was, when we brought it back to council. We had nothing at that point. It's been tagged for 10 years.
Right.
Yes.
And I guess that's my point, and where my frustrations come is because now we're punishing someone who wants to do something, and it's almost like it's, and I get it. Go ahead.
Respectfully, I don't consider code a punishment. I think it's a matter of safety and health for their community.
Well, and I think with all due respect, I don't get the sense that it's punishment either, because I think we've been trying to work with Lehigh, giving you lots of latitude, but what Darrell's not seeing is the formality, the legal nature of what would have otherwise been provided by other developers. And I think that's where his frustration lies, because
But they didn't do that, though. They didn't do that before, though.
But when we've talked to Lehigh, and I recognize.
And Darrell, you told me that you had, when you asked for the bond, this is the only one that's ever given a bond.
That's incorrect.
Okay.
We had one in the first 3 years that it was red tagged. Actually, I think it was in the first year that it was red tagged. We had an actual $10,000 bond because council at that time only didn't understand the requirements of having to do it as based on the cost estimation of demolition.
So then how do we get here? If we have the bond then, why didn't it proceed then?
Because council at that time directed me to hold off because there were several people that had come forward looking to do repairs to it, and then they never developed, and then I'd start again, and then council would stop me, and then I would develop again.
Yeah.
It's been 3 different owners,
Right.
quite frankly. It's been 3.
And that's candidly, that's why I think we're trying to give you, Lehigh's done a great job of representing the property's interest. He really has. He's been very credible, very passionate about the opportunity. What we're struggling with is not the passion that you've shared, but the formality that is continuing to not be demonstrated. And if it's that your engineers aren't doing the work, if they're not fully familiar with being licensed in Iowa, if they were doing preliminary drawings and they should have been stamped and sent to Darrell, it's just one thing after another where the informality is causing Darrell to say, I just don't see credibility in this project. We are trying to give you the latitude to work this project out. I see value in updating the property. Where it's located, I think it would do a really nice job of improving that area. I've got other ideas for a little bit further north and east and west and south. That's why I think we're trying to give you that latitude. We're just not seeing the formality. And I think that's the struggle that Daryl's had, that it's one thing after the other.
I think that it's the biggest regard is getting the plans done.
Right.
Right.
Which is the only unfortunate thing that we cannot do. Once the project starts and we have full autonomy to get it done, that's where if something were going wrong, I would totally understand. So I'm not saying that we're not responsible, because we absolutely are responsible.
Right.
It's just, it does take a little bit of time. It's not as easy as a developer coming in and building something new. If we are coming in and building something new, that, no offense, it is way easier. You get to create the plans. It's 100% what you put in there, and then you just plug and play and go and do it. When we're renovating, we have to take the existing, we have to try to make sure that it follows the updated code. If it doesn't, then the engineer has to figure out what's the least path of resistance here to not do a crazy amount of work that would cause, right, like it wouldn't make sense. Like if you have to move the entire structure 6 inches, it doesn't make sense. But it's not as easy as just developing something.
You're right, but your expert should be the expert in retrofitting all of these things. We understand that you're not. I'm not an engineer, but I have competent staff, we all do, that manages that process. So the person you have relied on is you. They're representing you. They're your voice. They're your expert.
I would hope.
So
this is
you've got to
totally
get with them.
respectful, completely respectful, but I would hope that you've never made a mistake in your life, because what you're saying is that we're responsible 100%, and that if someone else makes a mistake that we can't control, that we are 100% responsible for that.
Did those words
And I
just come
hope
out of my
that-
mouth?
But Lehigh, I don't think that's what because I
That's
agree.
not what I'm saying.
Let me just
I say
finish. Let me just
respectful.
finish this.
No.
I think what Julie said is exactly correct, and that is, we don't expect the two of you to be
Correct.
experts in designing and providing stamped engineer plans. That's why you're going to the engineer.
Right.
You're looking to an expert, no different than if you were going to a medical doctor or an attorney, an engineer, an architect. You're developers. You're looking for somebody to be able to provide what is required under code to our planning team. And that's the frustration that we've got, is that every time we ask a question, there's still something missing. Whether it's the financial aspects, which I looked at that letter, that still doesn't look adequate to me. Understanding that the plans that you're trying to get from your engineer, that they don't seem to be adequately detailed, they're not stamped. That's where Daryl's frustration is lying. We understand that there's a $100,000 bond to support the demolition. We hope to not have to trigger the use of that bond. We want to try and save this property, but it's just one thing after another. And that's why I think Julie's comment, it's not to expect the two of you
Right.
to do everything 100% accurate. It's not to expect the two of you to not make a mistake, but it is to expect your engineer to do everything 100% correctly and understand everything 100% correctly.
And I think it goes back a little bit to, Lehigh, when you had mentioned too before about the architects being so expensive and so costly. And I think you're seeing the product difference here in finding somebody that actually fit the needs that you were expecting versus a design professional architect that was going to charge you, I'm going to say, quite a bit more, extensively more. They're going to have that detail in there that we're looking for.
I'd like to add just 3 really quick points. One, the cost was a factor in selecting the architect, but also the timeline. We called every single architect that we could find looked up in Iowa, Nebraska, and South Dakota, and many of them at the beginning of this year, when we were going back after having trouble with earlier architects and engineers, we're talking about finishing in the fall. So it's an industry where there's a very long timeline, and so we wanted to be quick and prompt after we were given the grace to proceed, That was also one of the constraints. And we do appreciate that, as you mentioned, that you've worked with us. We very much appreciate that. We don't want to come across as saying that we don't appreciate that. We don't want to come across as saying that we don't understand that it is our responsibility to provide adequate drawings for this property. That's what we intend to do. We'll do whatever we can to get those drawings submitted. From our perspective, we looked at someone who had a license in the state of Iowa, and we said, okay, they're licensed, they should be okay for this. That's what the license is for. When I go to a doctor, they have a medical license, I don't really look much past that. We also checked references, and he had good references. To be honest, I'm frustrated too with this situation, and I don't understand why there is such a great disconnect between expectations and what has been delivered. And we are willing to do everything that is in our power to do to research what is happening here and what is causing this disconnect, and involving whatever professionals we need to involve in order to resolve that disconnect.
Do you think
We're
it's
committed
possible to
that.
get your architect on site?
I will ask.
I mean, that might go a long way.
Yeah.
But anyways, we're going to let you follow the advice of Daryl. We're going to move along. We've been on this topic for over 30 minutes. We have a couple of other presentations coming, so we appreciate you showing up. Daryl, I'll defer to you. What next steps are for them?
Go back to your design professional. Tell them they need detailed drawings and specs on what they're actually doing. You know, I mean, if council wants staff to do a complete, review of what was submitted Sunday night instead of just a cursory one, I mean, we can. We're talking several more staff hours doing that.
Obviously, though, they need to resubmit, so
Yeah,
let's
I mean,
get,
they need details.
yeah, let's get those details.
I'm not sure if this is even a possibility, but does the city do something where we pay that?
No.
Portion? Just curious, you know.
Pay what portion, Lehigh?
He's saying that it would be an additional.
Cost per.
No, we don't do design.
Good question.
No,
I don't think you're saying.
The design, but I'm just saying.
You're saying if there's going to be additional cost to the city, you're wondering if you can be responsible for that.
Yeah, make sure and we'll pay it. You know?
That's nice of you to say that. I don't think we have a system set into place to do that.
We can't approve what we design.
Thank you.
Right. Definitely comes.
So I'm wondering if part of the disconnect is, and I know, I'm anticipating what your response is going to be, but would it help if you or someone on your team, Daryl, did a walkthrough with Lehigh and actually was pointing to the things that were of concern?
There's really nothing left in the building.
But it's an example. Right? You're talking about that the entry has to be 36 inches and you're seeing it as 33. Walking through and explaining those things, would that be helpful? If it wouldn't be helpful, I respect that. But if it would be helpful.
It's just not his job.
But you said an architect.
It is architect on site.
An architect would tell that. And again, it may just be a disconnect from not being on site, the design professional making those calculations, designs. It might be just fine. I have not gone up there to put a tape measure on it, but I'm not the contractor, I'm not the architect, I'm not the engineer on the project.
Correct.
And it's not the first question for Kyle, because he came in town. Last question. I keep going back to the money thing. I just can't get it because I live in the real world too, and I just don't understand how you're going to get this done for $900,000.
Well, the major, one of the major contributing factors is that, I'm partnered with Lehigh, who, as part of our partnership, is absorbing, the part of the cost that would usually go.
Okay.
The labor part of it, all the labor?
Well, the general contractor labor, so like the labor in arranging with contractors, applying the relationships she already has to get competitive bids and all such things. And, we're still talking about $52 a foot, which is, that's a substantial amount of money to put into a project.
No. I mean, I try to figure out how you're going to get that done. I mean, on a remodel, normally it's even more, it's, new construction, if you could squeeze, I mean, $90 right now, on anything, I think I'd laugh. I mean, new construction, that's even easier. On a remodel, I just can't imagine. I mean, just the infrastructure on the utilities and stuff, that's going to be a huge bite. And again, I'm all about you spending money in this town, man. I really am. If you bring in a clean set of stamped, engineered plans, I'm the first guy to say, Henry, it's stamped, review it, get it out the door. But the problem we keep getting, and trust me, Ike is going to bat for you. And I think the only reason you're still standing here is because Ike is really, really doing the work. He is because we're in demo mode right now. So, but the thing there is you're not providing a set of plans that we can just sit there and go get it out the door. And so that's my advice is get the plans and we'll see in a week, I guess. I don't know.
We need those plans, guys. We need them.
Okay, thank you.
Try to get him on site,
Yeah.
so he has an understanding of the scope of this thing.
Be a good demo site and start new.
Please don't.
Be a good spot.
Thank you.
All right. Any more citizen concerns?
Yes, sir.
Come on up, sir.
My name is Melton Carter.
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
Melton Carter. I'm kind of finding out what's going on with Donaldson Park. I haven't heard nothing yet. And,
Well, I will
take-
tell you, there is a stay right now. We're taking a step back. Our Parks and Rec Department is. I've been in communication with them. I'm considering having a little neighborhood meeting there to see who shows up and what you guys' thoughts are, who's planning on using it, et cetera. So I emailed our Parks and Rec Director. He said he's open to doing that, but for now, we've taken a step back to reevaluate. We're sending another letter out to the neighborhood to connect with people again to say, hey, what do you think about this? Are you using it? Would you rather it be gone, or would you rather you open to having a home put here? So nothing's happening to it right now. I can assure you that.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, thanks.
All righty. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
All right. Presentations. Oh, we got it. Okay, presentations. FOG program, FOG, fats, oils, and grease.
Good evening, Assistant Public Works Director Vicki Baker.
Cameron Bell, pretreatment manager.
I will start with the history of the program because I originally developed the code, but Cameron oversees day-to-day operations and knows all of the updated things we do from day to day. All right, well, just a quick agenda. We'll tell you what FOG is, the concerns, history, and then program overview. What is FOG? So FOG does stand for fats, oils, and greases, but we are also worried about the solids coming out of the kitchens from the kitchen prep. So these units not only capture solids and grease, just everything coming from the kitchen. They're attached to the kitchen, so they're capturing all things that are coming out of the kitchen. So not just fats, oils, and grease.
FOGs.
It was the best name we could come up with. I don't know what we've tried.
Just add the S.
Fats,
that's
oils,
true,
grease,
Fog.
and stuff.
But that's just something we hear a lot is I don't have fryers, I don't have grease, but it's all kitchen waste.
Yeah. And there's a lot of milk solids
Yes.
and things like that, dairy,
Yes,
other food things.
Dairy products are loaded.
They're
in-
the worst,
in-
because I know that from
Fat.
Lamar's.
Yep.
This is a manhole that's supposed to have a trough.
These pictures are from our collections.
This is what they're supposed to look like. This is totally greased over. So there's a negative effect.
All right, so why is FOG a program? Causes sewer backups, and then once the sewer backs up, the sewer has nowhere else to go but out, so it goes out into the street, which gets us to the storm drain or basement backups or any other environmental concerns you can think of. Can interfere with our pumping and equipment throughout the collection system and our lift stations, which also increase maintenance costs with our UFO department and the wastewater department, and then, of course, odors and corrosion, as you can imagine. The environmental health risks, same thing I just mentioned. It goes on streets, sidewalks, basements, storm drains, rivers. Left untreated, it can harm aquatic life, citizens' health concerns, damage to personal property, and violates all of the Clean Water Act regulations. So history of the program. We had a couple of repeated EPA audits back prior to 2015 where we had a whole bunch of SSOs, which SSO is a sanitary sewer overflow. That's basically something happened in our sewer collection system that caused the sewer to get out of it. A lot of them were due to grease. And so the EPA had verbally told us, next time we come back, you guys need to have taken care of this, otherwise it's most likely going to be an enforcement, possibly a consent order. So we took it on our own part to create the program due to that mandate. Myself and the previous pretreatment manager researched for about a year. We looked at programs across the country, looked up regulations, and we developed the code based on what we felt in our professional opinion was the best thing to do at the time. We went very strict with our original code. We did pump outs, we did fog concentration, we did 25% rule. We did a whole bunch of regulations thinking once we get everybody in the program educated, then we could dial it back.
What is the 25% rule?
So we have like think like a clear tube that we can put in and like take a core sample, and it shows us the different layers that are in there. So the layer on top is your fats, oils, and greases, and then the middle layer, which is like a gray water, is what goes to the sewer, and then everything at the bottom is the solids. So those two layers together can't be more than 25% of that total. Because once you hit 25%, then as those layers get closer, more of that is going out.
Sure.
Not doing its job.
Correct. So
When you said that to get everybody on board, who would be everybody? Who's required?
So at the time, we just went with food service establishments, but in the code, it's everybody that produces food that can be consumed by the public. So, and also maintenance garages with oil water separators. So at the time, we just hit the food service establishments. And then we went churches, schools, daycares. The only thing we don't have jurisdiction to is the domestic population. The only thing we can do with them is flyers, education, social media, things like that. And then food trucks, we do have all the food trucks registered, and sister cities. So sister cities, due to their 2080 agreements, have to either mimic or be more strict to our FOG code. So prior to them having a FOG code, we were also in the sister cities doing all of the inspections. And if there was any enforcement or anything, we would just work with them and notify them and things like that. We do not. At the time of the code development, council knew that so I'm getting ahead of myself, but everybody at that time, April 1st of 2015, was grandfathered in. Whether they had a grease trap, whether they were up to code, anything, they were grandfathered in. If something happened, whether they caused an SSO, whether they added to their menu, like not just a sandwich or something, but like another, if they only serve breakfast and now they serve breakfast and lunch, like an expansion of their menu, or if they did like a big remodel of their kitchen where they expanded their waste, then they had to come up to code. So 10% since 2015, these units are not designed to last forever, especially even if they're maintained well, but they will eventually have a life. But 10% of those FSCs are still in that grandfathered clause since 2015, which is pretty remarkable. But
What's the average replacement cost?
it depends on the size. Some of them, if they're smaller, I think they're like $1,000 for the unit.
Under the sink?
It's just under the sink.
Oh, those, honestly, those can even be $400, $500,
Yeah.
$600, right?
But if you're talking like to be sized to where you're going out, you might have to tear up the floor. I mean, I've seen quotes of $75,000, $100,000.
Big place.
Yeah, if it's like they're already established. That's why we are on the DRC. We try to catch everybody that comes in and make sure we do have a sizing proposal, which we have changed recently due to the public's desire for us to do that. So we try to catch everybody coming in and try to get them sized, so that way it's not after the fact, because that's a big battle that we were facing for a while. But, all right, so that's me. Kick it over to Cameron.
I could jump into how the program works, but I'll first say I have seen quotes ranging from 200,000 all the way down to 25,000 for the same property, same install. So, What the cost is, it's hard to say. We've seen varied quotes across the board. So how the program works, one of the main things we try to focus on is education. We obviously we do on-site trainings and things like that, but working with the city manager's office and like doing social media posts, we've had a few of those go out and they've worked really well. And then in terms of like grease trap maintenance, interceptor maintenance, we'll do on-site checks. And, the restaurants are there, they should be keeping logs and things like that to kind of prove compliance over time. So we've got a new software, which I'll talk a little bit more about later, but there's this option now where they can record this stuff online in a database, and that's helpful. It helps prove continued compliance. So the inspections, the frequencies in code is at least once every 3 years. We kind of go in, that's why we usually ask for 3 years worth of records, because we may not have been there for 3 years. We went there 3 years ago and it was good, we don't come back unless there's a problem. So then there's follow-up inspections sometimes. If there was something that needed to be addressed, we would come back and kind of do a follow-up. So the basic requirements, I've sort of talked about them, but install, maintain, operate a properly sized grease interceptor. Obviously, there's a grandfather status on the clause, or a grandfather status on the original installs. They didn't have to be changed right away, but they still have to operate, maintain that unit. So keeping records, I've talked about. Dry wiping dishes is huge. Scraping the food off, throwing it away. There's a lot of best management practices in code. I won't necessarily go through all of them today, but a lot of these things really help prevent what ends up in the interceptor and trying to throw food away instead of letting it go down the drain. Some of the common problems we've already talked about through questions and things, but overdue pumping, we show up and maybe the interceptor's not in compliance. A lot of staff training is an issue. There's kind of a younger crowd than a lot of restaurants, and they tend to turn over, and that becomes an issue for the management staff, the supervisors, those types of things, to train and make sure their employees know how to, wash dishes correctly. Sometimes we see lack of pumping records, and startup owners are maybe not necessarily aware of the requirements, but like Vicki said, we've had good collaboration with getting on like DRC and other things like that to make sure we get ahead of the problem versus brand new building needing to install a new interceptor after it's already built. So this is kind of a slide about the benefits of the program. This is not just on the city side. This is public. This is for the restaurant owners, not just on the city side. You'll see, following this program, you'll see fewer plumbing backups, reduced maintenance, fewer emergency maintenance calls, and environmental protection and compliance. There's
Cameron, go ahead, finish your set. I got a question for you.
Yeah, just, I've heard people say there's plenty of bills and things like that on the restaurant side for emergency backups and things like that. And so a lot of the things that's in the code can help limit, those sort of things on the restaurant owners. So a lot of times it is beneficial for them, aside from just compliance.
So how do you decide, like, size of the interceptor?
So we have a size and proposal, and that they would be completed. There's several factors on there. I've got a slide or two that I can show you that you can sort of look at and see it, but.
Does like hours, operations, does that matter? The size of location matter? Or are you just saying that this is the interceptor that a person needs?
So it does take into consideration the hours. We have a grease factor in there now that even considers what kind of operations the restaurant might be doing. Say like a pizza joint maybe isn't the same as a coffee shop, not the same as a concession stand or a steakhouse. It kind of takes into account the different grease factors that have been published in other documents, and we utilize that to incorporate that into our sizing proposals. With hours, with number of meals per day, or there's several factors in there. Garbage disposals, dishwashers.
And obviously, you know, as Stacy mentioned earlier, Brecky's had this inspection, but Crum, who is next door, and he gave me permission to actually, you know, bring it up. But, you know, he said he's only open 9 hours a week, right? He's only got 3 tables. Most people don't even come in. So, you know, what you're saying is that regardless of those hours or whatever, he's still got to have the same size as, say, McDonald's. But
No.
I'm just asking.
No, we have like 3 different factors of the original. It's square footage, hours, or what's the last?
Number of sales, number of customers.
Yeah. And then later on in the sizing proposal is where you get your category.
So when do you guys ask that, though? When do
The
you?
sizing proposal?
Well, when do you ask, like, how, you know, your hour, or not hours, but you would
So
say
it's
revenue?
a document you have to fill out and submit back to us.
That's on your honor.
Yeah, and
How
you-
long?
we have a license, we ask that a licensed plumber fills it out, and then if we get any plans back, that they're stamped plans. So it's all on you to fill it out, like Julie said, on your honor, and then we get all those numbers back. We just check the calculation, and then if there's anything in there, we'll call that person back, because there's a contact on there, and just work through it if there's anything missing, and then we get that final number.
And see, I guess the issue that I would have was that, you know, the person who did our inspection actually said that we weren't in compliance based on the previous business. So, I mean, it never, you know, we never was asked that, but, you know.
I apologize. We're going to follow up, but I don't know why that would have been said. Because once that business closes and you open, then nothing against the old business goes.
They're 2 different businesses, though.
Well, yeah, I know that, but we were treated as if, you know, it was the same business.
And
Like I
what
said, we'll reiterate with staff. I apologize.
I guess what I think may have been happening was the grandfather status issue with the changed interceptor, and just wanted to make sure the size was appropriate because it got changed. But we can look into it. We'll definitely get back to you. I do have the sizing proposal up there, you know, if you wanted to look at it. And it kind of shows the different factors: dishwasher, garbage disposals, how many meals per day. All those sort of things are taken into consideration here.
So like number 1 there, you don't have to fill out all 3. You can just fill out 1. So if you know your average meals, you can use that. If you know your seating capacity, you can use that. If you know you're coming into town, you're not sure what you're going to do with this building, but you know the square footage, you can use that. And then it just goes to the next thing: storage factor, waste flow rate, and then that big chart on the side there. That's where you would look to see the number that you plug in. That's how it's different. You can see how it says high, medium, low. That's how that's rating those. So like.
Consider how much of your food going out is to go.
I'm so sorry, you'll need to
No.
come to the mic, please.
That's all part of that's what you would put in your average meals per day.
It has to be
I just wanted to
recorded.
know if how much of the food that you're selling is to go, if that percentage is taken into consideration.
And provide your name one more time.
Stacy Orndorff, Breckies.
Thank you.
That would be part of that number 1 that you would put average meals per day.
And this was revised last year, so that it wasn't a one-size-fits-all.
Correct.
For all restaurants, all sizes, all types of food.
Before, it was just average meals per day.
Right.
Or no, seating capacity, I'm sorry,
It-
seating
yeah,
capacity.
right,
That's all
right.
it was before, and then we didn't have that chart before.
Right. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, this
Yeah,
was
we had,
recommended, this was recommended by the citizens and the FECs for us to look at it and review it, and that's what we come up with, so. And there
We
was a
had
lot
some
of work.
public
to
meetings with a
put it-
lot of stakeholders.
We did
and
look at location
they're
for
happy.
but, go ahead.
So for compliance tracking, we recently began a partnership with FOG BMP And this is the online database I was telling you about. There's online tracking of pumping records. Haulers and the restaurants submit records online, and we can see them as soon as they're put in. There's also efficient tracking of inspections. So, instead of having paper records, we can have electronic records. We can send an email that same day. As soon as we get done with inspection, send them a report of, everything that we found, good or bad, and they can see that. So it takes a lot of labor out on our end and kind of helps us with tracking. And also, the FSE can see what was deficient, the restaurant, they can see what was deficient and submit a corrective plan, within a few weeks or whatever the timeline might be, and to kind of show that they are compliant, that there are no issues going forward, and they're taking care of things that were problems. So this is takes a lot of strain off. It's been beneficial. It's early stages. We're trying to get some buy-in, but this is showing a lot of promise.
Last question I'd have on the restaurant side of it is when you guys go in there on a new construction or on a remodel, one of the biggest complaints that I think this community, not just your department in general, is the lack of finding solutions versus just telling us. I mean, since this new council has come aboard, I would hope that maybe as we're addressing, we're solution based. So if the feedback that we want to get is that, yeah, it sucks, but you guys are trying to find cheap solutions.
Right.
That would be hopefully the new attitude.
That's always been the,
Well,
the goal.
I know it always has been, but let's rekindle and refocus.
This new program did do that, Rick.
Good,
Talk to Heather at Buffalo Atlas.
Good.
And
Yeah.
about this that they
Yeah.
found for her.
Yeah, how excited are you over there?
I don't have a problem with.
Okay, just want to make sure.
It's the implementation.
Yeah.
Vicki, do you want to respond to the scheduling of the?
Oh, so originally we did. I was actually originally an inspector. We would spend a lot of time waiting for the person to show up, especially places that were open not within our normal city business hours. We would schedule a time like at 10 o'clock or something. We would sit for half an hour to an hour. Then we'd try to call and ask where they were and things like that. So it was just a lot of inefficient labor, and then rescheduling, and then we've rescheduled, and then we sit there again. So we've just went to not scheduling, but we do work. We've worked with the community long enough that we know a lot of the owners and managers that want to know either they want to be there or, hey, just keep me in the loop. Or we've told them, if we ask, is it okay if we inspect? Because sometimes, it's during their lunch rush or something, and we don't want to stop them from doing any of that. So we try to schedule it before and after that. But that's kind of why we went to unannounced. It was nothing to do with catching anybody or anything like that. It was simply staff time was just, a lot of staff time was wasted, so. And it seemed, from what I've known, it's worked well, so I would love to talk to you and get your feedback.
I was just going to say, in my 12 years of owning Soho, the only time I had anything scheduled was when I very first opened, my initial opening, and when I was grandfathered in. But otherwise, you guys would just show up every other year or whatever it was back then, so.
Yeah, like I said, we first started that way, and it just didn't work out, so.
Cool. Be part of the solution.
Yep.
Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thanks,
thank you.
Vicki. Thanks, Cameron.
All right, building permits. Oh, no, sorry, Big Sioux River
Sioux.
Levee expansion project, guys. Sorry, I was trying to get you out of here, Daryl. Sorry. Sorry.
Freaking me out there.
Good afternoon.
Good evening.
Evening. We wanted to go over our Big Sioux levee extension project. If you don't know about this project, we're going to, it's over on River Drive along the Big Sioux. We're going to extend the levee about was it 1,300 linear feet? 1,400 linear feet.
Gordon, could you state your name for the record?
Oh, yeah. Gordon Fair, city engineer. And I have with me Kevin Cruz with JEO. He's our consultant for this project. So we're going to just go through the whole thing. Hopefully this will answer a lot of the questions. I'm going to do the first part, then Kevin will start. We're going to give you the project background, the status up to date, and 4 alternatives, and then our next steps on this.
Fair to say that we're not going to, in the materials that we reviewed to prepare for today, there were no financials. We're not going to see financials today again. Is that correct?
No, not,
Well, I mean. Cost of each proposal.
Yes, for the alternatives, you'll see some of those, but it's not, there's no decision-making at this point. If you see something, we're on track to do alternative A, so to speak. And if you guys decide, no, we want to hear more, we want to vote on the others, then we'll bring it back at a later date, and then you can vote on those alternatives, and we'll go from there.
Great, thank you.
Good. So, Big Sioux River levee was constructed in the mid-'70s, just an earthen embankment, and on top of a lot of it, we have the trail. It's about 3 to 4 feet tall, and our original design, like I said, we're going to do about 1,400 feet. And to do, in preparation of that, we acquired 3 properties last year. And this was after the '24 flood. They were damaged. All 3 of those properties were damaged. We bought them out at a fair market value, relocated them, and then we demoed the buildings. So that's to put the levee there. That was in spring of '25. We acquired the properties, and we received in the fall of '25 a $866,000 grant from the Levee Improvement Fund grant. So that's to go towards construction.
Not acquisition of the properties?
No.
Already did that.
Construction's right around about that price, 860 some-ish, at the current rate. So, and it is a 80-20, it is an 80-20 grant. Okay. Right now we're in the design phase. We've got 4 alternatives, like I discussed. We've already started our discussions with the Corps. We have to meet with the Corps for both our side and South Dakota side, as they are doing the same thing with us, because they're doing levee improvements on their side as well. And we're doing the floodplain permit, and they're working on the hydraulic evaluation of the river currently. So phase alternative A basically is, or actually all the alternatives at this point shows that levee being extended from the southwest of this map, all the way up to the where that red cloud is. It's all the same for all 4 alternatives. Okay? It's basically just a 4-foot embankment with an access road put on it and a little turn lane, a turn pocket up there so we can, vehicles can turn around and go back down on top of the embankment. So this is alternative A. We thought at the very beginning that we could do this whole embankment without having to buy this last piece of property, the one that's shown here on the right. It's actually 2 properties, but it's the same owner. We'll just say one. We thought that the elevation would bottom out right about there, but we were incorrect at the beginning of this project. And it was soon evident right after we started looking at it, but we wanted to come up with these alternatives. And this first alternative is to bring the temporary embankment out into the street during flood events, kind of like we do now. But right now we do it for 1,600 feet, is it?
Close to it, yeah.
Close to 1,600 feet. And that's bringing out those, we call them HESCOs, that's a brand name. It's a 4-foot by 4-foot by 4-foot pallet, so to speak, that's interlocked with a bunch of them. And then the maintenance crews will then scoop up sand and dump it in, and that becomes one giant sandbag. So we had to use those for that flood in '24, and thankfully we did.
So rather than doing sandbags, you've got those units that you place and then fill them with sand.
Right. That is correct. So we were hoping to get away from all of the temporary stuff, but we will not be able to without purchasing this property. So, did I miss anything? Oh, yeah, there we go. The pros and cons on this. It's got a reduced temporary closure, so it's not as big as the last one, or what it is currently. We don't have to take any additional property. It's the least cost, and we can still extend this in the future if we decide to. The next phase, alternative B, is similar to that, but this is doing one of those bulkheads in front of the house, in front of the property, like a retaining wall, small retaining wall, right on the edge of the property, and putting bulkhead boards along the driveways, or in front of the driveways, during a flood event. You may have seen these elsewhere around, do we have pictures?
And I've got some pictures on the next one here too.
See, similar to this.
They can be, the two on the right are actually from downtown Des Moines on a project we did. That's kind of a very simple, basic gray concrete wall. The ones on the left give you some ideas of some other things that could be done with those, a little more decorative. The one on the top left also gives you some perspective of what that looks like when the gates are in place and installed.
Would that be in the right of way or would that be on the private?
Right on the property line, behind the sidewalk.
And that, it does kind of get into one of the cons of that is that in order to build that, in order for operation and maintenance, there would need to be some easement. Even though the wall itself would be on the city side of the property line, it's going to be right there close. So in order to maintain it long-term, a permanent easement would be recommended. It's also maybe one of the cons, I don't want to cut you off, Gordon, but a big piece of that I really want to highlight is that it's important to note that the wall is there not to protect that home, but actually to protect the neighborhood from the river. So it's a little bit of a juxtaposition, and normally the home is on the right side of the levee. In this situation, the home is actually on the wrong side.
Kind of keeping the water in.
Yes.
instead of letting
So
it
that's,
out.
I don't want that to get glossed over, is that the wall is,
Right.
is protecting the neighborhood from the river, not the other way around.
While there's benefit to the property, there's a greater benefit to the broader scope of the neighborhood. So impacting property owner and needing an easement from them has real value.
Well, it's a detriment to the property because.
That's what I mean. That's what I'm saying, is that's why
Right.
requiring the easement, there is value to them.
Again, we're not endorsing these, we're just.
Right.
Want to make sure we're showing you the options. Right
Yep.
now, the first one with the sandbags, that's our alternative that we're going with at this point, unless you decide you want us to choose, and then we'll bring that back at a later date.
And those have worked well in the past,
Yes, they have.
right? And we have staff to deploy it.
Yes, we do.
Much warning do you need in order to get everything out?
Last time we did it in, what, 18 hours?
That was,
I think it was Sunday morning, I got called out. They hadn't,
I thought it was even less than that, but Kelly would know.
I think it was the next morning, that's when
Well, let's see, my day started at 2 a.m. that day. I think I called you about 6.
Kelly?
We had staff.
State your name.
Kelly Bach, I'm the park superintendent. I believe we had staff working by 7:30 or 8, and we were done at 4, both with this levee and protection of the Riverside Collector well. We ringed that whole.
So tally that up.
What's that?
Tally that up. How many hours was it then?
We were looking at about 8 hours with full staff.
Very good.
That's two different locations, too.
Right.
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 This one we went with
One
this,
long line.
be a lot less.
Alternate A ends up being about a third of the length of what you currently do right now today. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, so alternate C is another one. We just wanted to make sure that you were all aware that we did look at it. I will point out, it does have some really big physical challenges to it. So when you do see the cost, you'll see there's a pretty big window or a range of what those are. So rather than an alternate B where we were taking the flood wall or the line of protection in front of the homes, or the home that's there, this would be sliding a combined earthen embankment and flood wall behind those homes, like between the homes and the river. We really just wanted to see could something feasibly fit? What impacts would there be? The real drawbacks of this one, as you see on your screen up there, is that the top of the levee, whether it's a earthen embankment or a flood wall, it does impact several outbuildings on that property. The bigger red rectangular area is actually a swimming pool. And however you cut it, whether you use a wall or a earthen embankment, you get extremely close to that pool. And I think you would start to run the risk of some damage to that pool. As you start to get close to the riverbank itself, which is the green line, it's a little hard to, kind of depending on the resolution of screens, that's actually the top of bank of the river. The soils get very problematic as you get a little closer to the river. It's not in itself an insurmountable thing, but it has an implication on cost if you were to go down that route. So there, again, would need to be some easements for not only construction, but operation and maintenance, if that's the route you choose. But it would get the line of protection on the river side of that property, but it is the most costly option as well. And as I mentioned, there still are a number of big engineering challenges to get across, and you would be, yes, protecting the home, but the swimming pool would be impacted, those two outbuildings would be impacted, and it would probably have a negative impact for those folks as well.
And the homeowner probably won't like it anyway.
Alternate D, you
Go ahead.
need to run with it?
Anyone,
So
yep.
alternate D is more of a future type of scenario. It would be extending what you saw in alternate A, our preferred alternative. It would be extending it all the way to Beck Street. Now, the big point about this is it does go through that property that we were talking about of not acquiring now. So that's probably the biggest downside or drawback of alternate D. The one nice thing about alternate D is, like I said, it could be a future expansion if and when those properties ever do come up for sale, the same way you acquired the properties you have now. That could be a 5-year, 10-year, 25-year vision to completely eliminate the temporary flood controls of this area. But it would go all the way to Beck Street, which is the high ground that we would need to tie into for complete flood protection at this time. So,
Is that another 1,000 or 1,300 feet, linear feet?
yeah, so basically the total length of flood, temporary flood protection is right around 1,500 feet right now. That would completely remove all of that temporary and go back with an earthen embankment the entire way. So you could spend the city forces elsewhere where they're needed when it comes time to prepare for those floods. So then it kind of gets into where the rubber meets the road, I guess, is actually the opinion of cost. As Gordon mentioned, we are in roughly a 50% design stage right now. That's why there is a range here. We kind of need a decision point about which alternate we want to go down. These are all standalone items, so we don't add. If you want alternate B, you need to add alternate. It's not, don't overcomplicate it. It's either A or B or C or D. That's where you can get to. So generally speaking, alternate A is between 850,000 and 1 million, and then it goes up from there as you start getting into flood walls, which were extremely expensive. The biggest cost of the flood wall is the foundational elements. The portion you see is really only about half of the wall. There's twice as much down below the ground in order to make sure it all stands up, because we can't count on the soils when they're all saturated because of the flood condition. So yeah, the most expensive options are alternate B and alternate D. Those are the ones that have the longest stretches of flood wall. And again, alternate B and C. Alternate D is that future expansion or future work, if you would so choose, if you wanted to do that all now.
And keep in mind, that is not 1.5 million more.
Correct.
Than A.
They're each their own price.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the cost difference, if we were to do it now,
Question. So on D, well, first of all, on the liability on A, I mean, you're putting a wall behind a guy's house, so obviously they're going to get wet, right?
yeah, in front of the, well, on the street side, yes.
But when the flood comes, they're going to get wet.
Yep.
So we're creating a barrier. Do we have, what's our liability on that deal?
I'd be happy to provide an opinion to the council if you would like that.
That's not been discussed?
I have not been involved in
I'll
discussion.
be honest with you, you build a wall behind my place and then you block my driveway and then my house floods, I'm going to sue you. I mean, that's never been discussed?
Well, at this point, it's, no matter what happens, if flood happens tomorrow, we're putting those
Yeah.
sandbags out there all across the front, and he's got flood.
I just ask, that's my first, because I keep going back to D, which is, I mean, you're saying to acquire the properties and everything, and then extend it permanently where you don't have to mess around with the temporary stuff and everything, you can get it done for 1.7 and acquire, that's also acquiring the property?
Yes,
Why wouldn't we do that?
we can. I mean, this is where we're at.
I mean, we could do it we could limp in at $1 million, and then we still gotta buy, maintain, and staff and scramble, right?
Yep.
At a flood.
We do.
And then we leave it to the next guy down the road to maybe buy the property, not buy the property, or you go in at 1.5, 1.7, or beat up the people that are hungry right now. And you're saying you can acquire the properties up to Beck Street? You think they're acquirable?
They weren't when we were buying these other ones.
Well, we didn't ask for them at that point. At this point, these three were damaged. This one was not.
Yeah.
And we were pretty sure that those three was all we needed.
Until you did the topo.
And then we did
Yeah.
the topo, and we're like, uh-oh.
Yeah. I mean, call me crazy, but I mean, before you kick it down the road to the next guy for the next 20 years, I mean, you're talking the solution done, slam the door, don't need a consultant 15 years from now. You invest the 1.5 to 1.7 and you fix that problem. Okay, boy.
Finding the funding is another.
Well, again, I go back to, my guess is if you put a wall behind a guy's house and it gets flooded out, you're going to buy in the house anyway. You are.
No, you totally are, and
I know, I'm
welcome
right.
the
Good question, I'm
attorney
right, yeah.
Opinion. The one thing I will say is that the temporary flood wall in front with the HESCO baskets, that's what is in the current Corps of Engineers design.
Sure. Okay, that might give us a little bit of immunity.
I'd like to see an opinion, Nicole.
But anyway, I just think it's, you know what, I think it's a great presentation. I think it's a great discussion for the council to have is from an investment standpoint, at what point, we always talk about this community kicks things down the road and it's like, why didn't they do it this way? Well, you know what, this council might step up and say, if we just cure this problem, be done with it, then be done with it. So let's figure it out.
Well, that's what we were doing on this
Yeah.
extension on the levee until we just found out that it's not long enough.
Cool.
That's how we got here. We were stepping up and not kicking the can.
Julie, I know you were. We're good.
So is this something you want us to bring back, so be voted on?
I would love to hear Nicole's opinion, so whatever.
I'll take that as a yes then.
A and D,
We'll
yeah.
see you at our next,
Yeah.
Yep.
This meeting,
no,
oh, the team meeting.
correct. Put it on the agenda. We'll gather some information before then. Perfect.
Thank you both.
Want to finish, well, we still want to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think the only other thing was the next steps, as it's really up there. And then we provided a 50% design to Gordon and Brittany. We kind of need some decisions on what the direction is, and then we can wrap things up. Gordon didn't mention that any of this has to go and be approved by the Corps of Engineers.
I was just going to ask that, because if we deviate from what we already have, we're going to have to go back to the Corps. We're going to have another 6 to 9 months.
We haven't officially submitted to the Corps. We've been meeting with them, though.
Oh, okay.
And generally speaking, we're going to have to go to the Corps with any of those options.
Yes, I
So,
thought that may have been done already.
They aren't going to tip their hand one way or another, but generally speaking, it's that they want to know what your final design is before
Correct,
they
absolutely.
get involved with it. Knowing and being through a lot of 408 process, I think any of those we've talked about are permittable. It's really what do you want long-term best
Right, right.
where it boils down to.
What kind of timeline are you on? I see the next step.
Spring next year, we'd like to construct, a year from now.
So I will say that the core reviews are caught up in the kind of ongoing federal budget thing. I know there was a lot of them in Omaha that sat on somebody's desk for about 6 months before they ever got any kind of feedback whatsoever. So this is the spring of 27 is when we would like to be doing it, but that means we're going to need to be submitting to the core roughly around, Thanksgiving, give or take.
Well, probably yesterday.
Yeah.
All right, understood. All right, thank you. Gordon, will you make sure that gets on the agenda? Thank you.
We'll probably have to move that meeting then, if it's on the next one.
When's the next meeting?
Oh, I'm sorry, 2 weeks from today, and I'm gone.
Put it on. You're gone? Yeah. Well, Brittany? Okay. Permits.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Hope you complied. Darrell Bullock, Inspection Services Manager. We've got the reports that were sent out on each Friday. They can speak there. We do have an awful lot of them coming in recently, especially on the residential side. Brian is on vacation this week, so we're kind of pulling away from the commercial side as well as my own time to try to get as many of those out as fast as we can. So if you have any questions on that, otherwise Marty's got an update on our program.
Yeah, Marty Doherty, Economic and Community Development, I remembered.
Thank you, Marty. Thank you.
Ours is so much easier than these other ones you've been looking at. It's all good. Anyway, yeah, we are continuing with the project to implement new software to make the process easier for building in Sioux City. Last week, we had our first 3-hour Plan Review Committee business process review with the consultant. So it was 3 hours. It was long.
Did it
But
go
anyway,
well?
It went well. We're going through what the configuration will look like, what the public-facing software will look like. And we have in that committee people from IT, finance, planning, engineering, inspections, economic development, and fire. So a lot of folks involved in this process.
Is the philosophy in the room less is more?
After the 3 hours, yes, it was.
I mean, from you guys, I'm assuming you're developing the footprint.
Simplify.
Yes.
Exactly. That's
Everybody
part of
wants
it.
to put in their 40 things. I mean, are we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All in a nutshell, I mean, it's going to be the fact that everything will be there to be able to plug in, play, and move forward as quickly as they have their information available for them to move that forward through that. Right now, the focus this last time was more on planning and zoning portion of it, but engineering, of course, was there as well as fire. Fire is going to join our part of this group as well to help make that even smoother transition, if you will, for the permitting process, which we'll be starting that next week, hopefully.
Right, so the second.
Did you find out during this process, though, Darrell, that's funny you bring up fire and stuff like that. Are you guys figuring out during this process what's really code and what's just kind of always has been? Is it giving you guys some clarity on this? Because a lot of, I mean, from this is the way we always do it versus now you're plugging in what really just the minimum has to happen. Is it a good exercise?
Oh, it's always good exercise to review processes. I mean, we're doing that right now with graffiti, if you will, because we'll be taking over in the inspections department graffiti. And there was a lot of disconnect there, and I think without making that transition to go back and look and see how we're doing things, we would not get better. We would just status quo, and it would just keep moving forward the way it was for, and we've got a lot of exciting things coming up as far as that program is concerned as well. And again, that goes back to ease of reporting is going to be an essential part of that as well. On the graffiti part, it makes it a lot simpler for the citizen to make a complaint and get it taken care of quickly.
July 1st is when you change on the graffiti.
Yep.
So again, the business process review started last week. It's continuing this week. It's divided into 2 sections, planning and engineering in the first one, and then the second part is the building permits. So we'll start that next week.
Yeah. There'll be two additional. The 3-hour sessions will continue to go with planning and zoning, but then you'll have 3-hour meetings as well for planning or for permitting services as well, with other departments chiming in on that permitting as well, like the fire department before, for fire alarm permits, for fireworks stand permits, for sprinkler system permits, all those kind of things. That way it can be all found in one location and serve the citizens a little better.
Glad to hear that the IT department is a part of that, because we got some sharp guys down there that.
They have to be, yeah, we need them.
So it sort of is them.
They have to put it in, we have to figure out what it should do, but.
All the inputs come from everybody.
Yeah, they got
Right,
to
right,
Yeah.
all the users.
dumb this thing down, yeah.
It was going to be my question, but when you said it, so.
Yeah, a lot of things, just even user simplicity, there's a lot of acronyms that are thrown out there that, one department understands every single one of those. But the next department doesn't, they might have a whole different meaning for that, quite frankly, for the same, acronym. So this helps simplify that to make it very much more user-friendly in that respect.
Yeah, we're doing something that hasn't been done in a long time, which we're talking to each other about why do we do it this way? Maybe there's a better way to do it. And I think that's healthy.
It is.
Have a good result.
Just keep getting it to the field. You guys are doing a good job. Get it to the field, get it to the.
Good progress.
Get it to the field, get it to the field.
Yeah.
Thank
Good
you,
job.
gentlemen.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. HART, Homeless Assistance Response Team.
Rex Mueller Police Department. Your last memo to council, or at least information to council last week, would have had the latest statistics. I think the team is still doing what we expect them to do. I see regular emails from the officers involved in that. They're constantly out there problem solving. We've thrown a lot of new locations, projects, concerns, and both officers, along with the other city partners, get right on the issues and provide a response. So I think they're continuing the excellent work that this council endorsed. And if you have any questions about the last report out, just let me know.
I want to thank, Captain Bertrand sent out a QR code and everything. I think that's such a great piece to get, especially into the public, so that people can have that readily available to reach out. And so I've heard some great comments, had a conversation with a local business owner downtown.
Yeah, and that's a direct connection to not only the HART officers, but community resources. So they researched that. We talked about that. We thought, at a glance, what could we do? Everybody has phones, and that QR code is a nice link to some of the resources that the community provides. So.
Yeah, Chief, I think we're making really good progress. I think we continue to have the dialogue that you're seeing with your team and the stakeholders that are involved with HART. I know that we're all having continual dialogue. I met with Jessica last week. I've talked to Joe a number of times. I've talked to Shayla a number of times, and I also had a chance to visit with Wendy Jackson last week. And I think everybody's moving in the right direction. Everybody's is trying to get our arms around the scope of the issue and trying to know the best way to manage it. I think we continue to make good progress. I want to thank you and your team, and I want to thank the other corporate citizens that we're working with to identify all of the issues, all of the stakeholders, and come to a resolution.
Absolutely. I think a lot of conversations were happening that a year ago were not happening.
Right.
And the familiarity, the team approach, it's outstanding. I think in the long run, we're going to be an example to other communities that are wrestling with the same issues.
Well, and to that point, I was going to raise this point during council concerns, but Mike and I are actually working to reach out to a variety of communities that have dealt with the same issue. Jessica mentioned to me last week that the city of Milwaukee had a similar issue and was addressing it. 2 weeks ago, I was watching a debate on television, and the mayor of San Jose was identifying how they were trying to manage the issue. Mike and I have a call with the mayor's office of San Jose on Thursday. So we're continuing outreach. We're continuing to try and get our arms around all of the issues, identifying the issues, and coming up with a solution.
We had Council Bluffs, Chief was in town last week, and he and I had a sit down about that too. They've got a different approach. Now, there's no one-size-fits-all, obviously.
That's right.
It's a unique community. So when we tailor our response, it's with our unique needs and our geography and our resources involved, and I think we've done a good job of making constant tweaks to HART and the response based on the needs that we find, based on the barriers that we've encountered, and I think the team is doing a very good job addressing things.
Do you know, or Mike, do you know, my understanding is that SHIP is in possession of a study that was done in the last year or so on the homelessness?
Point in time count, I assume, or the point in time count?
No, it would have been beyond a point in time count. It was a broader scoped. Can you reach out to SHIP, please? Ask Matt if they've got something, and if not,
Mike, if you want, I can do that. I
Either
can
way.
reach out to Mike.
Okay.
Or, excuse me, I
To
can
Matt?
reach out to Matt.
Yep, thank you.
Matt Oman.
Chief, do we know, I mean, I know that Hart has spent a lot of time downtown. Do we know what the approach is as it relates to the whole city?
They have, obviously, they have, a lot of it's call-driven, but they have not limited their work to the downtown area. I have seen emails from the Hart Group. We've gone to the east side, obviously, with some of the concerns brought up about Gordon Drive and the reconstruction. They've got properties over on the east side that they're watching, locations that they're checking where concern was addressed. It was related to homelessness. So they are not limiting their activity to the downtown area. They're going wherever in town we need them to. You know, I don't see any boundaries as to where the Hart team is working.
So when it comes to feedback, I've been sharing with my fellow council members emails receiving from local businesses that are very appreciative of what's going on, and they kind of feel like they're getting maybe the shackles taken off them a little bit to be able to express themselves on without feeling retaliation, saying this is happening, what you guys are over the target type thing. We have a lot of work to do yet. So where my mind is shifting now is to the enforcement side of it, and I think that's why you've been great about supplying the data that I've been asking for data, even just like the things with the mini bikes and stuff like that. And it seems like that when we ask for data, you guys tweak or sharpen your skills on, or sharpen a little bit on the enforcement side of it. We asked for the mini bike data for the last year. I think it's kind of an eye-opener how much the tickets that weren't written, and all of a sudden now we see that this is an issue, and now you guys have really, I saw the story the other night on the KTIV that have really heightened your awareness on the mini bike issue. So going back to the homeless side of it, we can feel really good about ourselves, and I think we are identifying the players, let's put it that way. But there's still that 20% that I really want to continue to focus our resources, being the badges, on enforcement. Are they on drugs? Are they intoxicated? Are they trespassing? And if they are, we've talked now to the judges. We want to continue to hammer home the infractions that they're getting prosecuted, that 20%. They need to feel that they are endangering, or they're breaking the law. So I just want to compliment you on that. I know that that's part of the focus, but this thing is now transitioned in my mind to law enforcement on that 20%. That's the only way we're going to get that 20% to realize that they can't keep doing what they're doing. We haven't. The panhandling's down. I mean, it's down now. There's not 7 of them standing in the median. There's just 1 or 2 here and there. So we're making headways, and I appreciate that.
Rick, the 20%, can you please clarify again who they are?
Yeah, it's the people that don't want help. We have historic reach out. Oh, we have historic reach out right now, and that's why I tell people. And this is a 20-to-1 issue. For every one comment that I get saying, you're being kind of maybe a little incompassionate, there's 20 people saying that this has to happen downtown with the investment we have down there. And they're good emails, and the people are sincere about it. The other thing is, people like to reach out and talk about, hey, what if we built this, or what if the city builds this? I'm just going to be transparent, like I've said before. My mission is very simple. It's not my mission to house the homeless. It's not the city's mission to home the houseless. Our mission is to protect the downtown, to protect the downtown businesses, and that patrons and citizens that live down there, or shop down there, or do business down there feel safe, and they want to be down there. So that's my mission.
And the rest of the city.
That's the mission. So again, I think that you're over the target. We're focused, and I think with the ambassadors coming on with Reagan, it's great. We'll just see how the summer plays out. But back to the encampments, I think you're doing a good job there. I'm also meeting on Wednesday with out of Sioux Falls, the head of the B&N Railroad back there, that big encampment back there. I toured that facility with the county. They got a lot of property back there. I was back there with the county boys. We're going to try to put a plan together to get that dozed and just get that camp cleaned up. We're going to bring in the railroad, the adjacent property owners that are there, and say, it's just a big landfill back there, and there's so much.
So it'll be collectively all the property owners?
Yeah, we're going to, and if they don't clean up their property, we're going to clean up for them, and we're going to assess them. And I think that the railroad was extremely receptive to this conversation. Like I said, I'm meeting with them on Wednesday with the county again, and the public will notice when we go in there. My goal is to doze that, put a frontage road in there that can be patrolled, can be, it's not really, it's not, I mean, like I said, I walked it. We walked it the whole way.
No, I
and
mean,
it's
how about
it's
put in a trail?
Yeah, put in a trail, really, yeah, but yeah, it'd be a good idea if we're spending the money. But that's another one I think that when that one, finally we get that one cleaned up, it's gonna be very symbolic for the city. It's called progress. So just keep doing what we're doing. I want to keep that front and center in front of the public that we're working on it, so.
I think I've been clear, I mean, even the last report out to this council, that we are still a law enforcement agency, and we're just one aspect.
Yep.
At the end of the day, that's what we're going to do, and we're going to provide a criminal justice response. Our partners in the HART Task Force are there to provide the other resources. So we're not going to shy away from arrest when it's necessary, and our officers understand that. That's what they do.
Yeah.
But when you ask, for a report out, I think we're reporting out on a lot of our partners within the task force to try to give this council an understanding of what's being accomplished. But at the end of the day, we're police officers. So enforcement is the best tool that we have. In many cases, diversion offers a better result than enforcement, but in many other cases, enforcement is the best option, and we're not going to stop doing that. That's what we do. So we won't step back and avoid arrest when an arrest needs to be made. And the officers understand that, and the HART officers aren't the only ones working on the problem.
And I like what you're highlighting. I mean, just like I said, the simple thing with the mini bikes, it's going to be curious to see now that the focus has been refocused on that, how many tickets are actually issued versus I think there was like 6 over the last year.
Well,
it'll be fun to watch that explode. And I had a guy that's been in my neighborhood driving without a license plate for a year, and all of a sudden now he's getting pulled over. It makes me feel good. I mean, it's like, it's called compliance. I mean, they're going out there and it's the lawlessness in Sioux City. Not saying there was, but the graffiti, the lawlessness stops. And I think you're starting to see that, and I appreciate what you guys are doing.
Well, dealing with the mini bikes, that part of that's a new ordinance, relatively new ordinance.
Yeah.
And the first thing we should always do is public education. And that's what we've been trying to do with our social media. I think there's a lot of parents, grandparents, whoever, buying those for their kids with no idea where they could be operated, which is why we've done interviews. We put it on our social media, and voluntary compliance is always the best result of anything. And so trying to publicize that, trying to let our citizens know what they can and can't do with those devices. And I think the messaging has been really effective. I looked at some of the things that we generated on our social media, and kudos to our community policing team for getting the message out in a succinct manner so that citizens don't have to read through the city ordinance to figure out what is and isn't legal. We're putting it right out there very simply for them to understand. And that's, to me, is always the first step. I think Iowa law and then our ordinances did not catch up with a lot of those electric devices because they're kind of a new thing. And now we're seeing what's happening with them, and now we're responding with an ordinance last year and with public education, and then enforcement's always going to be part of that.
Give them a chance to learn about it. And I don't think that some of the grandparents and parents, like you're stating, understand that just because it's sold, I mean, you can buy these little mini bikes at Baumgars and all kinds of different places. That doesn't make it legal to drive them anywhere that they choose to. So the education is going to be really key.
Yeah, and they're new devices, relatively new devices, and I think state law and local ordinances are playing catch-up. So we're responding to something that came out on the market that municipalities and states weren't necessarily prepared for, and now we got to deal with it with law, common sense laws. And I think the city's ordinance that was authored by one of our great city attorneys, very common sense. I think it addresses the concerns, and it outlines where those should and shouldn't be used. And I think for pedestrian safety, and those are essential pedocycles, for pedestrian safety, I think that the rider safety, we don't want to have any vehicle versus, kids riding an electrified motorbike. We want to make sure that the law facilitates their safety.
Thank you.
Yep. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Chief.
All right, council concerns. Mr. Bertrand.
Quickly. Quickly. The met with on the grading permit. You guys can thank me later for that 3 hours of my life I'll never get back. Daryl and with Gordon and all them. We are getting through the grading permit upgrades, and Stephen is rewriting it now in legal department. I'm really excited about it. We've kind of simplified it, dumbed it down. I think the development team is going to be really happy with it. The build along with the dirt guys. it's needed, you know what I'm
Did
talking
Tom
about.
give you my 2 cents?
He did, yeah,
that make
yeah,
sense?
yeah, noted, yep.
Okay.
And it was a good process, and we've been working on it, so I'm looking forward to the legalese catching up with it and implementing that new grading permit process. We talked about the Baumgars building behind there this week. Mike, you're gonna get the variance, that's coming June 1st, right? Yep. On that. UTV vote, is it coming?
We're probably 10 hours into drafting a
Okay.
new version of the ordinance, so we're working on it.
Cool, those are calls I get.
Putting it together.
We got an update on the spec building, we got at the ED, which I'm excited about that. Somebody want to tap Salazar. I had 2 complaints on Bacon Creek this week. Not big complaints, but just needs a little cleanliness and they had yeah, and they had some crackhead walking around there too, and they couldn't get him out of there fast enough. So maybe just a little bit more attention in the Bacon Creek area. It's very well used and it's a nice resource for the public, especially the east side. And then, Mike, I talked to you again. I want to continue. I do want to formally pursue the nuisance on the Nebraska property. I'm not taking my foot off the gas there. I do want that to come to council for us to debate and vote. Other than that, it's going to be a great week. My daughter just graduated. I want to say congratulations to her. She heads to state track Thursday. She is a 10-time conference champion and a first-team All-Stater, and this is her senior year, her final race in a Heelan uniform, and I love her, and I'm so proud of her.
Congratulations on everything she's accomplished.
Greg?
In addition to the comments I had made earlier with regard to Milwaukee, San Jose, the homeless study, very quickly, Mike and I had a chance to meet last Friday with Community Health, Mark, and with Brendan, had a really productive meeting to understand the full scope of what Community Health is able to do, the services that they provide, and how they really are a separate healthcare system in our community, ancillary to what Unity Point does, and I look forward to continuing to work with them and support what Community Health does. And then also to Rick's point about Bacon Creek, my family was at the riverfront yesterday, and it's a wonderful facility from start to finish. Great opportunity. It was getting really good use, but it just didn't seem like maybe the maintenance had been done for the spring. Can you find out from Matt what he's got planned for both maintenance, cleanup, what he's got planned for mulch?
Anything specific?
The mulch had not been replaced. Maybe it just needed to be raked and revised. There was quite a bit of dead in a number of the planters. Some of them looked great, and there was quite a bit of trash. Thank you. That's it.
Absolutely, thanks. I was very happy to see the recycle bins next to it, right? They have seemed like they were out of control, but I was happy to see at least some of those additional ones being placed for folks. Also had the opportunity to participate in the Morningside Days Parade with with Legend there. It was kind of fun. So, which brings that I'm actually excited for the. You know, I won't steal it from you, Julie. I know you will.
Going after this?
I know, so I'll let you. I won't say it. Exactly. I'll leave that for you. But also, you know, and Craig had mentioned this earlier, but great to meet with Jessica and Christy Vermullum. We're looking at beautification and looking at all the areas to beautify our city, and I'm excited for that work that we're trying to do and partner with the chamber as well as Iowa, you know, and those things. So that's it.
Very good. I am going to announce, because I did not want our 250th anniversary of the United States of America to pass Sioux City by without our effort. So we will be having a 250th anniversary / 4th of July parade. It will be held on the riverfront at 6 p.m. on July 3rd. It's going to be fun. Whoever's interested in having a float, if it's your business, you want to enter in, if it's a group, if it's a 501c3, if it's a dance troupe, whatever it is, please go online, look at the city's website. You'll see the information, how you sign up for it. Let's make it big. We're not going to have this occasion again. I haven't told Mike this, but I'm going to ask that the city also construct our own float. It can be simple at no cost, just on things we have hanging around, because I have a commitment from the county that they're going to do the same. So maybe we have a little competition there. It's just such an important part of Sioux City's history, the country's history, that we mark this down, and that when we reach that time, July 3rd, we look at our city, our community, our neighbors, our friends, our relatives, and ask ourselves, are we proud? This is our place, right? This is where we live. This is where we exist. And I know I keep hammering these things, but I can remember back when I first ran for my first council seat, 2019, I was campaigning. And at one of the forums, I was asked, and at more than one, but my first forum, I was asked, do you have plans to grow this city? Do we need to expand this city? We need to grow it. What are you going to do? And I just said, well, the reason I'm getting on this, trying to get on this council, is to improve our city. And first of all, we need to improve it. I said, we need to grow up first before we grow out. So if that makes sense, we need to take care of what we have. We need to love what we have. We need to respect what we have. We need to get off of the negative campaigning about where we live. This is where we live. It's what we should love. And if you can't love it, you better at least like it, because it's a part of all of us. I didn't grow up in Sioux City. I didn't live in Sioux City until 2015. But let me tell you, I fell in love with it very quickly, because it's the smallest little hometown city ever, but it's also the 4th largest city in Iowa. And we need to really respect that, and we need to get our place, and we need to stand up straight and proud and prove that this is our community. We're going to keep it clean. We're going to respect it. And that will, through osmosis, bring us employers and more economic development by having a place that their employees that they may bring would want to live. So we're on our way. We just need to get over this hump and continue. And we are all committed to it here. And I want our community to just lock arms and let's do this. I drove on Singing Hills Boulevard the other day, and I saw a adopted street. It was Singing Hills down by Culver's, and a single Sioux City resident's name was on the sign, that he had adopted the street. It wasn't a big business. It wasn't a 501c3. It was no big team. It was Mr. Jake Jungers. Guess what? We have many hundreds. Patrick, how many streets do we have? Thousands or hundreds? Hundreds of streets. So if hundreds of us each just went and adopted a street or part of a street, imagine what that could do for our litter pickup every week. And it would make our community look so much better. So give it some thought. I might start a campaign for that. Even though we have an Adopt a Street, I might start a different one. So with that said, the last thing I want to mention is, per the mayor's request, and I do support this, we're going to cut the presentations down to just 2 a week. So it doesn't matter which 2 they are, whatever you guys want them to be is fine. But with citizen concerns and, not being able to control that length, he would like to do that, and I'll support that. So we still have the presentations. We'll just limit it to 2 a week. Okay? All right. With that, I move we adjourn.
Second.
Bertrand.
Aye.
Rayford.
Aye.
Shaner.
Aye.
Bernstein.
Aye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.